Mira Business FM, your daily guide to the markets, money, and more.
This is the Morning Drive. It is Mira Business FM. Good morning to you. Gold and precious metals next. Jeff Rhodes is the Managing Director for Business Development for the Middle East, also Asia as well, at Monetary Metals. And he's back. Good to see you, Jeff.
Good morning.
Nice to have you here. Also, we're joined by PhD and CEO of Monetary Metals. Keith Weiner is here once again. Good to see you as well, Keith.
Howdy. Good morning.
Good to have you back. I'm going to come to you, Keith, but I want to start with you, Jeff, this morning, because there's been a bit more drama this week in the precious metals world than there was last week. We kind of struggled a bit.
We did a bit, and it has been gold has been in very much a holding pattern between 4,600 and 4,900 for a number of weeks. And most recently, it's just stuck around 4,700. So we were wondering really what we could talk about. But thanks be to God, we have Donald Trump. He comes to save the day.
Don't often hear that phrase, do you?
But we do have him, and of course the big meeting going on at the moment in China.
Yeah.
And all of that sounded good. It sounded great. Lots of nice stuff being said on both sides. But towards the end of it, the Chinese president talked about Taiwan.
That's when it turned.
Yeah, then the kind of the mood of the markets turned on that, because it reminded everyone that there is a conflict going on in the Middle East. There is conflict going on with Russia and Ukraine. And you know, really, it's quite a concern. On that news, oil prices rallied quite strongly. Now, we know that higher oil prices means much more inflation, not good for gold. And that's not good for gold because it also means higher interest rates. The Fed could be pushed into raising interest rates when they don't really want to. And so the thought of higher interest rates, inflation, not good for gold, not good for silver or platinum or palladium. All four had pretty bad days yesterday, and it's worth noting that. I think what happened yesterday has negated the technical positivity for all four, particularly silver. I was, happily thinking I'm going to talk to you about $95 silver this morning. Over on Tuesday, Wednesday, honestly, silver was rampant. It was up to above $89, and this time last week it was around $78. So
it was averaging about 87. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
It did, and then yesterday was above 89.
Yep.
Then we had this kind of new rally, and the dollar, the DXY, which is a basket of currencies against which the dollar is valued, that's above 99. There's a big rally yesterday. So strong dollar, rising treasury yields, constant thought of maybe the Fed having to raise interest rates, not good for gold. So, I just thought it was worth touching on that before we get to the star of the show.
Keith Weiner is back with us. Do you know, Keith, the last time you were here, we spent most of the time kind of getting to know you, really, rather than talking about monetary metals. And you know what it's like when time flies when you're chatting away, and all of a sudden you've got 2 minutes left, and I'm like, I'll have to do it again. We never really explained in detail how the gold leasing business works, and I'd like to talk to you about that this morning, because most of us talk gold, and the phrase is always ultimate safe haven. That's how most people view gold. I think that's kind of fair to say. Historically, though, gold just kind of sits in a vault. It's kind of a dead asset, isn't it? In most ways, when you look at it, because the other thing is you have to pay somebody to guard it. So, what if your gold could actually work for you? And that's kind of the basis of what you do, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say, so in light of what Jeffrey was saying about volatile gold prices, a lot of people come to gold for a lot of different reasons, whether it's safe haven from volatility, whether it's safe haven from credit risk, whether it's inflation deflation, people come to gold. But a funny thing happens along the way. They buy the gold. There's nothing to do with it except put it on a shelf somewhere, put it in a safe, and then cheer for its price to go up. So you thought, okay, I'm buying gold because the dollar is going to go to the toilet. The dollar does go to the toilet. Gold goes up. And then, sell it to get more of the very dollars you just said were going to be in the toilet. And so, people try to trade gold. So they come to gold as a safe haven, but then they become traders. And they're like volatility junkies, in this time zone, getting up in the middle of the night to see what's going on with, what did the Fed chairman say? I think we just ratified
Not
Kevin
looking
Warsh.
at anybody in particular, Jeff Rhodes.
And what Monetary Metals is doing is kind of the antidote to all of that.
Yeah.
And instead of betting on the volatility, it goes up, it goes down, that's all just noise. 20 years from now, what do you think the gold price is going to be? Well, higher, obviously. And in the meantime, why not get a yield versus paying storage fees for 20 years?
Well, that's a really good point. I was telling you the story last week, Jeff, of I have a wedding ring here. It's 17.5 grams. It's 18 karat gold, so it's rhodium plate, so it's white gold, right? And I've never looked at it. I remember when we bought it 26 years ago, it was kind of expensive, but it's your wedding ring, you're buying it for life. I had it weighed the other day, and it's worth 7,500 dirhams, sat on my finger, that I've never even thought about. So living, breathing example of exactly that. For anybody that might have a couple of sovereigns, maybe a bar in a safe of gold, the idea of leasing gold is sort of counterintuitive, and I'm trying to get my head around it. But in plain English, how do you lease a physical metal? How does it work?
So if you walk into the average jewelry store, here in UAE, not just Dubai, but Sharjah, Abu Dhabi, et cetera, there's about 50 kilograms of inventory. And so, there's a reason for that, which is it's very expensive to have that store. They don't tend to be in the low rent district, very labor intensive. There's a lot of staff running around, advertising and so on. You get only a finite number of customers walk through your door. If they don't find something they fall in love with, they walk out. So you need to have a large variety of different things, from bangles to earrings to whatever, and then, multiple different sizes for each one. So the inventory, has got to be quite a lot. So 50 kilos, so today's gold price is, what is that, $7.5 million or something. That has to be financed somehow. So the old bad way of doing that was you go to a bank, you got a loan, you pledge the jewelry as collateral, perhaps. But the problem is, so let's say last week, or better yet, let's say January 28th, gold price was what, 5,500 and change?
Yeah.
You have at that time whatever $8 million worth of inventory in the store. You borrow $8 million, you buy your inventory, and then boom, the next day the gold price drops, continues to drop for a bit. Gold price is 10% down. That means you have a $7.2 million asset, but you still owe $8 million. There's a technical term for it. It's called insolvency. Banks tend to get pretty cranky about that sort of thing. And they can do drastic things like foreclose on you and take you down into receivership and administration. So what they typically have to do is line up $9 or $10 million of credit and then open a margin account and hedge. And what hedging means is short gold futures. So if you were shorting gold futures the last 2.5 years, you can imagine you kept getting margin calls on your hedge, and you have to keep putting in more and more cash to feed the margin position. So your absolute worst case scenario is you keep putting cash in, cash in, cash in. Eventually, you reach 5,500. That's the straw that breaks the camel's back, and your margin position is zeroed out, and the next day there's a 10% drop, and you're unhedged. So what we do instead is we'll lease the inventory to them. So we'll purchase it from them and lease it back. Now it's not, the price is not their problem. The jewelry store is just trying to make a spread. They buy it for wholesale, they sell it for retail, they make a little bit in the middle, and they're not trying to bet on the gold price action, and the gold price will move more in either direction than their gross margin. You could do that in an hour. So we're taking the price risk out for the jeweler, providing the capital, $7.5 million per store. Some of the big guys would have a few dozen stores, in UAE, and then maybe a few dozen more across, GCC, hundreds usually in India. We're giving them the capital. We're shifting the price risk to who? To the investor who owns the gold, who's taking that price risk anyway. Whether there's a bar sitting in a safe or whether he owns the jewelry in a store, he's taking that price risk on purpose as a portfolio allocation because on balance, the gold reduces the volatility of his portfolio, enhances his returns. And now we're taking away from him a storage cost, which can be close to 1% a year in some cases, and giving him instead a 4% yield.
So, like me, most gold investors are sitting on gold. I mean, Jeff's line is always never sell it.
Yeah.
Never sell it. You're going to sit on it for 20 years, 25
But then
years,
what good is
30
it?
years, whatever. Exactly.
It's not doing a lot for you.
No, I mean, wedding ring, if I sold it, that might cause a few personal
But I mean,
problems.
an investment bar.
No,
Yeah.
I know, yeah, exactly. So I'm at this point where I'm thinking, why has this not been done a million times before? It's the obvious next question.
Do you have
isn't it?
Uber or Careem on your phone?
I do.
Do you have Google search on your phone?
I do.
Do you have Amazon?
You're making a
These
good
are
point.
all things
I
that
see where you're going.
after the fact, everyone says, well, that was bloody obvious.
Yeah,
Jeff
yeah.
Bezos didn't do anything.
But those are the best ideas, aren't they?
They're obvious
If you
afterwards.
can turn around and say, oh, that just makes perfect sense. Why did we, just because we didn't do it before?
I mean, I could say, look, because of historical accident, all the world governments were moving off of gold starting on the eve of World War I. The United States, obviously, infamously, FDR in 1933 made gold illegal to possess for Americans. I don't know that there were too many countries that did that. It was a felony, as in go to prison for possession of gold from 1933 to 1970. Incredible, right?
It is.
And then after 1975, they re-legalized it. They were laughing. They said, gold is a joke. Let it trade on the futures market next to frozen orange juice and pork bellies. And so you have this historical accident. You have what I call ideological blinders. People think of it as a commodity for betting. It goes up, it goes down. You can go long, you can go short. Nobody thought of it in any kind of serious finance or monetary context. Really since 1933 and after 1975, as I said, it just became a tool, a chip in the casino. And so to say, okay, let's reverse all of that thinking, go back pre-1933, it's a radical, now it's a radical idea. And before 1933, it was commonplace.
Well, it is. Just the whole, the daft thing about all of this to me, and Jeff, it really hit me when I had this ring weight, okay? Because it explains the whole ethos of gold, if you like. Anywhere in the world I go, if I got stuck for any reason, I needed to raise cash. I can't do it because it's probably more than my life's worth selling the wedding ring. But if you really needed to, I could, and I would have enough money to fly wherever I needed to get to, or whatever. And that's because of this pretty small piece, kind of irrelevant piece of metal.
Yeah.
But
very portable.
I know somebody.
Very portable. That's the point.
I know somebody who was born in Hungary in 1948.
Right.
And so he and his family were fleeing, half a step in front of the Soviet tanks in 1956. And they got very near the Austrian border on foot. They were basically running with the clothes on their back. But the father had a gold watch. And so there was a little platoon, or I don't know whatever you call them, of guards with machine guns who stopped them near the border. And the father took off his gold watch and handed it to the sergeant or corporal, whatever it was. And, the guy could tell it was real gold. The gold is very heavy, much, much heavier than steel. Yeah. So the guard said, okay, border's that way, 2 kilometers, run. My men and I are going to patrol around this way. If we find you when we come back, we're going to kill you. Run. But they had that chance to run for the border. They got across the border to Austria, and then they got to, I think, West Germany, then they got to the UK, and then they finally got to Canada where they settled, and the father built a business, which the guy that I know took over when his father retired, 30 years ago. And so gold was the difference between getting shot or arrested and, thrown in a Soviet prison versus getting out.
There's so many stories like that. And I have, sorry, Keith, I had a client in my early days at Samuel Montague back in the 70s, and he was a Greek ship owner, one of the big families, okay? And he was, during the Second World War, he was an advisor, a translator to one of the big cheeses in the army. And he travelled a lot to Alexandria. And when he went to Alexandria, General Haig, I think his name was General Haig, when he went to Alexandria, he would buy sovereigns.
Right.
He would buy sovereigns in Egypt, buy sovereigns. At the end of the war, he was able to pay for a Liberty Passage for him and his family to New York. And then from there, built the shipping business, rebuilt the shipping business. So I think there are these stories of gold being able to do so much for you that it's more than money. It really is. It's the safe haven that will get you out of trouble when you need it most. And that is the attraction for Asia, certainly. In India, going back 5,000 years, there would be various tribes who would be fighting each other, and they would put their gold and bury it in the soil in their land. So gold is. I think in a way we have to be a bit weird to be in the gold market because
You said it, not me.
Yeah, I think we do. But for me, it's the ultimate asset.
I wanted to ask you, Keith, about transparency, because there is no such thing as a risk-free return.
That's right.
Okay, I mean that we should point that out.
Anybody that offers that to you, run.
Exactly right. If my gold, for example, I've got a couple of gold bars, don't I just wish? If my gold's been leased to a jeweler, and the jeweler goes bust, what happens to my bars of gold?
So in a lease, this is not a loan. This does not become the jeweler's asset. This is similar to leasing a car. Let's say you got a Ford, you lease it from Ford Motor Company, you declare bankruptcy. The car's not sold to satisfy your creditors. The car's repossessed by Ford, if you miss a payment.
Sure.
So we put ourselves in the position of being lessor of tangible property, not a creditor. We also file, there's a government registry for liens in case this were to be deemed to be some sort of credit. We put ourselves in first senior secured position. We can try to do all the things. We have insurance. There's a lot of stuff. And nothing's perfect. You can always, if you zoom in with a microscope, you can see gaps and questions and what if. And a lot of those what ifs don't have answers because you don't know what the court is going to say, until you petition. Yeah. But there have been cases here in UAE and certainly in the U.S. and other places where leased property is leased property. It doesn't belong to the creditors. And so that's the basic structure.
Okay. What has this meant for the jewellery market? I mean, Jeff, I know you've been banging the drum that this has been a particularly tough time to be a jeweller, certainly over the last couple of months. But it strikes me this could be a hugely positive impact for Dubai's gold, certainly the retail gold sector.
It's a negative impact to the sleeping pill industry. Because the jewelers are able to sleep a little better at night, because if you have that $8 million worth of inventory and you're short $8 million worth of gold, the gold price goes up. They're getting they're getting margin calls. They're really not sleeping very well. Now you have a lease and you say, okay, put the lease in place, forget about it, go to bed, sleep 8 hours, wake up in the morning. I think it's a life saver, a game changer. For the jewelry industry.
The
jewelers can't know what's hit them, surely.
Well, this goes back. I mean, I told you this story before. It goes back to 1999 when the European central banks decided not to lend gold anymore and not to sell any more gold, and the price went from $260 to $340, like in the blink of an eye. It took 2 or 3 weeks. But that was a massive percentage move. And all of the jewelers in the suit were exposed to that rally, as Keith is saying about with margin calls.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in a meeting with a big jeweler, and I said to him, but surely this rally in gold is good for you because your jewelry is now worth more. He said, yes. He said, but I've got loans against that. My jewellery I maybe turn over 2 or 3 times a year, but the bank will want the margin money tomorrow. So what do I do? And the concept of then taking jewellery as collateral was born. And then time went on, and it went until 2016 when Keith came along and developed this gold against gold lending strategy, leasing strategy, which is now coming to, if you like, really fruition here. It's amazing because a jeweler no longer has to worry about a margin call. Keith said it right. He can sleep at night, whereas before, and it's not just the cost of funding that margin. You have to leave extra money in the bank. It's not in your business. Now, if it's in your business, you get a multiple return on capital. But you don't have to leave money in a bank now, just waiting to be called for margin. You can use it in your business, and so it's kind of, I think, Keith, you like to use win-win. It's a win-win for everyone.
Win-win.
It is, but it's also, I mean, you've moved here. You're based out of Dubai now.
Yes.
Keith, aren't you? This is kind of, I know you're backwards and forwards. I know you travel a lot. I get that, but you're based here. Dubai is the city of gold. We're all very aware of that. We're next to India, which is, the atmosphere around gold is even more concentrated, I suppose. Potentially, this is the start of an international movement, isn't it?
That's exactly what it is. It's people beginning again to think about
It's
gold.
It's gold 2.0 kind of thing. I know that's corny, but it seems.
Yeah, if gold is something without a yield, and it's just this lump, Warren Buffett, everyone knows who he is, I presume. Every year, and he's, about 100 years old now. He's been doing this for a very long time. Yes. Every year or 2 or 3, he likes to take a whack at gold like it's this piñata, and he just swings this bat at it. And he says, gold is not productive nor procreative, and you buy a lump of gold, stick it in your desk drawer, 20 years later, and you take it out, still the same lump of metal, it produces nothing. How absurd it is. We pay these guys to dig it out of the ground, then we pay more guys to put it back in the ground and stand around guarding it, as you said earlier. It's absurd, he says. And it's one of those things that's both true and disingenuous. Right? Yes, on the face of it, it's true, but there's a reason to own gold anyway. This is a new paradigm. And a paradigm shift is one of those things that if you get it, you can say what it is while standing on one foot. But if you're listening to it for the first time and you're thinking about it, it's like someone says to you, okay, now picture the world as it is. But we want to tilt it 89 degrees. Okay, can you picture that? And you're like, yeah, sort of. Okay, now if the world were tilted 89 degrees, blah, 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 and he rattles off 100 things that would be true in that world that aren't true today, and you're like, it's really, really hard to picture that. But what we're driving is a greater role for gold, a much more important role for gold in the portfolio. So our average customer comes, so we're not trying to sell people on gold. We're trying to reach people who do already have it and say, wouldn't it be better to earn a yield versus paying storage costs? Very simple, proposition. Our average customer doubles their exposure to gold. Now, why? Well, if gold is a costing asset, it's costing me 1 percentage point per year. Well, how much do I really? Okay, I know I have to have insurance on my house, but I don't want to load up on extra insurance, right? But if gold is a yielding asset, paying 4%, I probably want a little bit more. That's pretty cool, actually. And so they double their exposure, and they start to think of it in a different way. And when we print an account statement, it's in ounces. Yeah, there's a dollar thing off. Everyone wants to know what's the dollar value of my portfolio today, but it's about the ounces. So they're thinking increase in ounces rather than the same ounces, or even slightly diminishing ounces, increasing in dollar price. And it's a paradigm shift, and it's happening.
Well, paradigm shift is a phrase, right, that it's a little bit like risk-free return. You run a mile. I kind of run a mile from when people say paradigm shift, but, and I'm going to qualify this, because most of the time when you hear that phrase, it's just a way of catching attention. It's just
not a paradigm shift.
there isn't very much of a paradigm shift going on. But I can't see this any other way now, because it is a reboot. That's the only way I can kind of view it. It's completely different.
By degrees, gold was banished from the financial system starting arguably long before 1913, but let's say 1913. And by 1933, it was done. You could argue the Swiss had partial gold backing for the franc until the 1990s. But by that point, it was in a vault, and they just said, well, trust us, we got some gold over there. But it had nothing to do, it wasn't involved in any kind of transactions anymore. It was just sitting there, and it allegedly or theoretically limited the printing that they could do for the franc. But since 1971 or 1933, gold's had no role. And the paradigm shift here is that gold will have a role, which means everyone starts to reevaluate, I want to own any of this? Now, per the point I made earlier and the volatility for most normal people is something that they say, I want to stay away from that. That's not a good thing. That's like if I had a car and I'm trying to sell, I have this new sports car, and everyone's talking about how crashy it is. Oh yeah, this guy rolled it over, and this guy died in a ditch, and it was on fire and upside down. It's not something I want to buy, right?
No.
But if you say, okay, so this is something that's a steady, anchor to your portfolio, reduces volatility, and it generates 4% a year, that sounds like something I might want to do. So it changes the paradigm.
It does change the paradigm, unfortunately. I'm falling into my own trap. I thought, Jeff Rhodes, you always do this to me.
No, that's not me, it's Keith.
No, but you introduced me, so I've got to blame somebody.
Yeah, okay.
But it's interesting, because we all have gold. Most of us have gold in some way. We're all aware it's there.
Yeah.
But what you're managing to do is turn this kind of static asset into a productive asset.
That's it.
That's the key, isn't it?
I've got another kind of terminology. We're taking a dormant asset and we've made it dynamic.
Dormancy to dynamism.
Yeah.
There's a marketing phrase in there somewhere. I'm not. Well, it probably needs work, but you can have that one for no money at all.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. So, last question, Keith. Since you've moved to Dubai, I know you're a fan of Dubai. I know you're enjoying your time here. You've been here, a couple of years? Am I right?
I know
you've been in and out for a while.
On and off, sort of living in a hotel room almost as a permanent.
Right.
But I officially moved here in January this year.
Right, okay. But in and out prior to that. Reaction to monetary metals, reaction to the idea, reaction to your paradigm shift so far?
I mean, to the jewelers, as I said, it's really a lifesaver. On the investor side, as we talk to institutional investors, they're saying, we want to yield on our gold. And that, to me, so everybody took it as physics. Like, gravity says, pulls down, sun rises in the east, there's death, there's taxes, and gold has no yield. Those are like facts that everybody takes for granted. And to have a bunch of institutional investors say, we want yield on our gold, they're resonating. We're the only ones talking about yield in the world on gold. So that's our message resonating and coming back. I mean, we were talking earlier about, do you love what you do or do you hate your job? Yeah. I couldn't imagine a better, happier place to be than to spend years evangelizing this message, yield on gold, right? That's our tagline. And then to hear it resonating back, in some cases, from people who didn't even know we're the ones saying it, but they're just asking for it as a proposition. Can I get yield on my gold? Or we need yield on our gold? Yes. So pretty exciting.
I bet, yeah. And then you met Jeff along the way as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we all bear our crosses, don't we,
I told you, I think last time we came on that, it was Keith in the audience asking me questions that were fantastic. And I insisted with the organisers of the conference the following year that Keith was on the panel. And and of course, the monetary metals leasing structure talks exactly to what I came up with in 1999. That was the attraction, really. I thought, wow, this is great. And so it's up and running, Keith. Keith is here. The business is only going one way. So, it's all good.
Good to see you both. Jeff is here every week. Keith, I have a feeling we're going to be seeing you more and more as time moves on. Jeff Rhodes is the Managing Director of Business Development, Middle East and Asia at Monetary Metals. Keith Weiner is the PhD. He's the CEO of Monetary Metals, now based here in Dubai. It's good to talk to you both. Thanks for coming in, both of you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Just a quick reminder, this full interview will be posted to our Mira Business FM LinkedIn page. And this is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, where business comes to talk. Mira Business FM. The sound of success.
Mira Business FM, it's the morning drive. So we're talking legal matters and restructuring and all of the above. Headline GDP remains resilient. We know that. Under the surface, there are pressures, of course, as there always are, but lots of companies feeling the mechanical pressure of rising debt costs. Tighter global liquidity is putting pressure on GCC companies. Here to discuss how the UAE, and I guess the wider Gulf as well, is navigating a changing M&A and restructuring landscape, and whether distressed asset opportunities are maybe growing across the region, is Sima Osiran. She's a corporate lawyer with BSA Law. It's good to meet you. Good to have you here.
Lovely to meet you.
Good to have you in the studio. Do you know, I wanted to preface this whole conversation. It's a really tough thing to discuss because
100%.
this has a real impact on people. It's a tough position to be in, to have to face money getting tight. But there is a need to face the reality of that. We all have to do it. Of course we do. First of all, Sima, how much pressure are GCC companies facing as we see liquidity tightening and from higher interest rates, just broadly speaking?
Honestly, I think that there's been a lot of stress and discussion around this liquidity crisis that's appearing around us here in the UAE and the GCC, but it doesn't exist. And we need to be very careful on how we characterize the liquidity issues that we're facing right now, because it's not a crisis.
Okay.
We are still very liquid. At a government level, we are still very liquid. You have to understand that the UAE is a receiving market. So we're on the receiving end of goods and services and ideas. And we're essentially in a place where we're at the intersection where we receive assets from all over the world, investments from all over the world. We haven't seen yet that our liquidity has been massively impacted. We're still seeing people are still very able and willing to invest in the country. We're still seeing capital in the country. People still want a prime piece of the market. The thing that has changed is the mood. We have an appetite for investment, but it's about what we want to eat. Right now, people are being a bit more selective. They're a bit more concerned, a bit more cautious, given the discussions around the region. And we'll see people being a bit more tentative on how fast and how much they're willing to invest, but not a complete stop in investments altogether.
It was interesting. Actually, the message is relatively positive. We've been talking for a long time about how it's a wait-and-see attitude, how people are sitting on their hands. That's a phrase that we've heard lots of times. And this is not, certainly as far as I can see from the discussions that we have in this studio, this is not a COVID situation.
No, absolutely
not.
not.
The perception may be, it's this, it's that, but it's not COVID, is it?
No, absolutely not. And it's the same for interest rates, really. We broadly follow the Fed. So we are pegged to the dollar. We broadly follow the Fed. Sure. And insofar that we're not seeing some massive instability on that front, we're not going to expect COVID interest rates. We're not going to expect those hikes in interest right now. At the end of the day, what we have to understand is the money is there. People are just more careful. And that's a very positive message going forward, because we have the framework to support it here, realistically. We've seen that the government is willing to step in. We have to remember, we don't live in a country where the government sits back and watches the system seize up. We live in a country where the government takes proactive measures in order to ensure that everyone is protected. The key sectors are still vitalized, that we have support for banks and borrowers. We saw that during COVID, and we're seeing it similarly here. Even in minute aspects like tax residency, the government has stepped in. It's taken measures to extend periods for people to obtain their tax residency status and visa status. People who were stranded abroad at the beginning of the conflict, they've now been able to come back to Dubai to renew their visas. These are just small, minute things that the government is doing on a day-to-day basis, but we see the same support on an economic level.
These were immediate measures taken, and I think very often what we miss is the immediacy of those measures the point of that is it gives you time.
100%.
And it gives breathing space. And that's kind of the first thing you need. When you don't know what's going to happen, when you have as much uncertainty as we faced.
100%.
I mean, that's important to remember, I think. I know I'm not going to ask you for specific details on transactions or mergers or acquisitions. I know you can't do it. So I wanted to talk to you this morning, and I think there's a need to talk quite broadly. But which sectors, and if you can look at this broadly, whether it's retail or traditional logistics, whatever, which areas are seeing restructuring activity, and which are the areas where refinancing is maybe more of a challenge at the moment?
I mean, obviously we have to look at things like family groups. They're the backbone of, family conglomerates are the backbone of the GCC economy, okay? And any businesses which were struggling pre-war, or however you want to classify the situation, because I wouldn't classify it as a war personally.
Let's pre-conflict.
Pre-conflict.
Yes.
Any industries that were struggling pre-conflict will be struggling more now, not because of the conflict, but just because it's exacerbated underlying issues.
Okay.
You have, for example, family conglomerates that were undergoing restructuring pre-conflict. So let's say the Saudi bin Laden group. You have Majd al-Futtaim, very, very promising restructuring proposals which have really revitalized their sectors. I think we can't take it as a sector-by-sector approach, because it's more generally any business that was struggling pre-conflict is still struggling today and will still be facing restructuring. I think we see a lot of kind of activity around the real estate region, just because now we have developers who are a bit stretched given the fact that they're facing issues obtaining their materials for construction. And we know Dubai is a place where buildings are propping up every day and you're seeing new developments every day. So developers are a bit stretched. So as a result, you'll see real estate being a bit further stretched. But otherwise, I don't see that there's a key sector which is facing impact. We're seeing hospitality being impacted.
I was going to say
in the
tourism,
UAE.
hospitality.
Yes,
obviously.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily to the point yet where we're seeing major restructuring in that field. We're seeing what you would expect to see across the board. And I don't think that that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. 100%. I mean, there are absolutely distressed opportunities right now. Real estate is absolutely a distressed opportunity, but we're not in a distressed market. So I think there's a key classification.
But that's the difference, isn't
Yes.
it? And that's
Yes.
really important to get across, I think, because this is, look, distressed equals opportunity.
Yes, absolutely.
In modern parlance, I suppose. And that's the difference between a market that is distressed and people that look at a market
Yes.
as being distressed.
I mean, you have to look at the UAE as at the intersection between capital and commercial leverage at the end of the day. You're looking at a country that has no shortage of capital yet, and I don't think it will have one in the near future. Okay. And you have the commercial leverage because it is known as a hub. You're talking about one of the top, DIFC is one of the top 5 locations for hedge fund managers. You're looking at an industry which is very, very well supported. And so I think you can't classify our market as it stands as a distressed market. But distressed opportunities exist irrespective of how distressed the market is, because people will want to buy when they can buy at a better price. This is always going to be the case. And so you will look at businesses looking to merge with other corporations. You will look at businesses which are looking to refinance. You will look at businesses which are hoping to, convert their debt into equity. This is definitely going to happen now, but those are the same businesses that would have done that pre-conflict. This is the key thing. And this is just more of an opportunity to revitalize. And I think that's the general idea that you get with the UAE framework as it stands. We have a specialized restructuring framework. Like at a legal level, we have a framework which is specialized for restructuring that was introduced in 2024. And the larger sentiment around the UAE isn't that, the business is dead and so let's scrap it. The sentiment is the business can be revitalized.
Let's see what we can do.
Let's see what we can do.
Well, that's kind of this sounds corny and it sounds like the party line, but that's kind of a prevailing attitude. That's very much an
100%.
attitude you see, I think. Maybe we could do something more than we're doing.
Yes.
That's kind of a way of looking at things. It's a less what's the word? It's less mercenary way of looking at things. Something that I think is really important. I wanted to talk to you about the importance of communication and the importance of early intervention. But I want to talk to you first about realism, because we often talk about founders need to be realistic. You know, when you have the idea and you've got the business, you may have an investor and you're like, I'm going to change the world. It's going to be be realistic. So for maybe a founder who might be watching, maybe listening at the moment, they know that their balance sheet is, maybe you're treading water, you know, you're trying to get up the side of the dock, if you like. What's the first step to take? What should you be thinking as a founder in a position like that?
I mean, you can take real examples of what's going on in the market right now. I'm not sure if you've heard about what's happened with IFCO,
I haven't, no.
So you're talking about one of the largest food and fast-moving consumer goods manufacturers. It's a Dubai-based entity, and they had a debt balance of 2 billion, and they've undergone a massive restructuring right now. They've looked at their balance sheets, they've assessed, it's been led by HSBC and other creditors now. They're undergoing a massive restructuring. But you're looking at this sector and you're saying, well, from a realistic perspective, this is one of the most vital sectors that we have. It's food and fast-moving consumer goods, you know. They own Londonderry, for example, here in Dubai.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're looking at something that's massively vital, and they're still having to undergo restructuring. And so there's no correct way forward, realistically.
Right.
What you see here is, for example, NMC, which is hospital chain, during COVID.
New medical center,
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
During COVID, they also underwent restructuring. But what we're seeing in both of these cases is the government will step in to protect vital sectors, right? And so you see here, food, fast-moving consumer goods, this is vital to our economy. And so now we're expecting to see the government will step in the same way that they did with NMC, and they stressed the importance of keeping the hospitals running while COVID was in its outbreak. So you don't really know what the starting point here is when it comes to restructuring. Always the best opportunity, I would say, is to capitalize on transforming debt into equity. But there's no hard and fast rule, because it very much is a case-by-case basis based on the business model of the company, based on the jurisdiction. It's never as straightforward as one approach, but you can see that it will happen on any level, whether it's the smallest of companies or the largest of companies. Restructuring is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just an opportunity to rejuvenate.
Okay. Let's talk communication, because I mean, I guess you spend a lot of your time sitting, talking, listening to woes, and that's part of the day-to-day, isn't
100%.
it? Early intervention is really important, but communication leading up to that is key, because there's a great benefit from working towards, I don't know, if you're in a situation, a consensual workout with a bank, for example, rather than leaving things hanging and heading perhaps in a legal direction in your business. I mean, the point is to communicate, to talk about it, isn't it?
Agreed. And this is what the new legal framework actually puts in place.
Right.
Our new legal framework right now actually encourages settlement between parties.
And allows for mediation.
Allows for mediation, allows for
Right.
negotiations. Rather than taking it straight to the courts and rather than taking it straight to court involvement, what you have is these preemptive steps. Because again, like I've said and like I've stressed throughout this entire conversation, the UAE is really taking this approach when it comes to restructuring as this is not the end. This is a new beginning. And so it is encouraging these kind of minute steps to take on the way. And they're in place at law. So they're our baseline. We move forward. We have appointed mediators who handle these situations. And I think that it's important to put focus on that rather than stating that, we're going to go straight to liquidation. We're going to have a court-appointed liquidator. They're going to liquidate all of your assets and they're going to distribute them to all the creditors. This is not what we're seeing right now. We're seeing people really going through kind of these operational, organizational discussions where they're discussing how they can rebuild, readjust, and renegotiate.
So that's communication, that's early intervention, but there's also a need for, I mean, from what you're saying, I get the feeling that transparency is or should be a key policy, because particularly when it comes to talking to somebody like you, for example, because you need to know what's going on.
100%.
So that if you're able to be open with a legal team, just as an example, transparency is generally a great policy, I guess, for most people. But if you're open with a legal team, that mitigates personal liability potentially, doesn't it?
I mean, you're looking at it more from the perspective if you're open with the lender than with the legal team. Because
in this instance, yeah, you're right.
If you're looking at it from the perspective of being open with the lender, let's say, for example, the lender is going to run these really, really intensive due diligence checks on you that weren't necessarily a requirement in previous loans and transactions that we had pre-2020, I would say.
Right.
Now we're seeing that the lenders are being a bit more diligent in how they go about knowing their customers. And this is really important. And because of that, we're seeing that, like you said, the liability is shifted slightly onto the lender. The lender is now responsible to do their diligence, to ensure that they know their customer before they're giving out massive sums of money. This is really important.
It's buyer beware,
yes,
isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Caveat emptor, buyer beware.
Yeah.
You have to know who you're dealing with. And I think that the framework that we have at law here really does put stress on that, which is very important. And I think this whole concept of more due diligence, we're going to see more of it now post-conflict, because foreign investors are going to be more aware of, the stigma around the region. And so they're going to have a bit more of a cautionary approach when it comes to throwing all of their assets in. And we're going to see this now with mergers and acquisitions as well. It's not that people will stop wanting to participate. Everyone right now has their knives out, but they're just waiting to make the first cut. But
We're in that mercenary world again.
exactly, we're in the mercenary world again. But you're waiting to make the first cut. You don't want to cut too close to the vein. So they're just being a little bit more cautious. They're being a little bit more preemptive. We're seeing this reflected with banks. We're seeing this reflected with companies that are hoping to merge. We're seeing this across the board. This is a very positive thing. It's not a negative thing. Yes, 100%. We can characterize it as negative. We can say, oh, people used to be so willing and ready to invest in the region without a second thought. That second thought is necessary because it's going to protect the vitality of the region.
I think that's a fair point to make. That's another level of safety, another level of security, I suppose. In your chosen field, the law, what we've seen in the last 5 or 6 years, particularly since COVID, I think, is the legal landscape has moved. Incredibly fast isn't close. It's kind of lightning speed.
100%.
It really is. It's amazing. And I wanted to bring up Federal Decree Law Number 2020, Law Number 20 of 2025. Let me get this right. Fully in effect this year. It's the mechanics of merging or even moving companies has changed, right? So, and I wanted to ask you, how has that made it easier? Has it made it easier to restructure a business that may be struggling? That's, as far as I can see, that's another stage that we've seen very recently.
No, 100%.
Am I reading that?
No, you're reading that absolutely correct.
Right.
And again, it goes back and it speaks to the way that the government wants to get involved to keep businesses afloat. They don't want businesses to die. And so now we're discussing restructuring on a different level. We're not discussing restructuring from the frame of, okay, this company has gone insolvent. We have very limited options. So we're going to restructure the debt in order to repay creditors and slowly wind up the company.
Okay.
We're looking at it now from the perspective of, we're going to restructure the company to try to keep it afloat because we can have better outcomes. And the whole importance and stresses on better outcomes. So
this is another level, but it's also another. It's a kind of a switch in attitude
100%.
as well. It's a different way of looking at
100%.
restructuring.
But it's not even just the attitude. It just speaks to the fact that our legal framework is advancing, like you said, at lightning speed, and advancing for the better, to consider all options, to consider everything that's going on in the region. This is a very, very positive thing, because it tells you how adept our legislators are at actually preempting what's happening in the world. Because it's very relevant that this framework has come into place at this time.
Well, it is. It's also, I don't quite know how lawyers keep up, because there has been so much.
We don't even keep up, to be honest.
No, I'm just going to say, well, thanks for the honesty. I appreciate that. Look, final question, because we're out of time. And it's more of an observation, really. So the way, I suppose, the modern way to look at restructuring is that strategic restructuring isn't a sign of failure, particularly when, liquidity is, you're in a tighter environment from a liquidity perspective. It's more a sign of, in some ways, it's more a sign of proactive, more sophisticated management, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's what the crux of it is.
Okay.
That's what the crux of it is. Of course, there are times where it can be, from the perspective of, really having the business have its final goodbye. But in most cases, and specifically with the attitude of the UAE, it's a new hello.
That's a good place to finish, I think. Seema Ossaran is a corporate and restructuring lawyer, corporate lawyer at BSA Law. It's been good to have you here.
It's been great to speak to you. Thank you so
very
much. Thanks.
If you're a podcast listener, search for Mira Business FM on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from, and give us a follow. This is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, your daily guide to the markets, money, and more. Mira Business FM, where business comes to talk.
This is Luxury Breaks. It's Mira Business FM. It is our weekly look at all things automotive. Our guest is Jacek Ziemek from X Motors in Alcuz here in Dubai, and it's a pleasure to see you.
Hello, happy Friday.
Happy Friday indeed. I have to say, you're looking well. And I don't mean that normally you don't look well, but you're looking well, Jacek. The colours they're bringing out your eyes or something.
Okay.
Yeah, let's move on to cars.
Okay.
There's a lot this week to talk
It's not
about.
a fashion podcast,
No, well, not yet.
but we can try.
We I wouldn't be me doing that kind of a podcast, let me just tell you. There's a lot this week to talk about, particularly domestic car market here in the UAE. There are a few models I would just wanted to bring up. We'll do that very quickly towards the end, because I know what you like. But the first thing was supercar news, because that's your daily bread, if you like, isn't it? Supercars.
Supercar news. You mentioned it about the 12-cylinder, the Digicilindri.
The new V12 Grand Tourer.
It's
Yes.
a wonderful car. Mm-hmm. I have a chance to touch it. I mean,
Did you just kind of brush past it as you didn't let you open the door?
no, it's a bit change in the strategy of Ferrari, because the previous one, 812. Even more powerful than previous one, F12.
Right.
Okay, was considered as too soft for many drivers, Ferrari owners. Okay,
Okay.
so the 12th cylinder is not like this. It's stiffer, and the first time in the Ferrari history, it has, if it matters, a proper sound system inside, entertainment system,
I
which
think it
sounds
does
as
matter.
good as in the good German brands,
Really?
because it's made for the Burmeister, the same which is doing the same job for the Mercedes
Okay. So that,
and the Porsche.
how important is that to a Ferrari driver? Sound system, do you think?
It is not so important, but it's good to have it. Okay, if you're spending 2 million for a car, you expect to have everything.
It
right?
is. It is a nice to
And
have.
it's
Yeah.
like a luxury car, right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's more appropriate.
If it's
in
not
this.
able even to cross the bump.
Well, this is a Grand Tourer, so you can.
It's, let's say, if you're talking about the Grand Tourer, which is close to 900 horsepower,
Well, they pitch it as a Grand Tourer, but that
Yeah.
it means a different thing to Ferrari than it does to most people. There's also the Amalfi version, which is going to succeed the Roma as well, isn't it? Is that
because the Roma was considered as ugly for many.
right? Yeah. What did you think?
I think it's specific.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
They
what you
rise
mean.
up a bit horsepower. They change some details, and we talked about it before. They change the touch with steering wheel.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Now it has a physical buttons too.
Yeah, well, that's the Johnny Ive thing, isn't it? The Johnny Ive
No, I think there
influence
was a
coming in.
lot of complaints. We have also a sister company to X Motors, which is selling the spare parts for the Ferrari and the Lamborghini. So we know the steering wheel, we should have it on stock.
People weren't keen. Okay, I'm with you. Let's talk about Lamborghini very quickly, because the Temerario it's all, there are cars under order. We haven't seen any yet. Am I right?
No. I've seen it in here in Dubai also.
Oh, there are some here.
yeah.
Okay. Thoughts on that?
So it's a hybrid Huracan with a
I thought you'd be a
group
bit
engine.
more thrilled about it.
Okay, but because there is no naturally aspirated V10 anymore.
Yeah.
The petrol heads are crying. There is no such a sophisticated sound. Same what is going on in Formula One.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we'll see. It's too early to say anything else.
There's another
The
piece of
Huracan was the bulletproof car.
yeah, super popular. Yes.
Bulletproof, not super popular. You can make it 200,000 kilometers with this car without issues.
You see loads of them is probably a stretch, but there are plenty around.
Yeah.
That was a popular vehicle.
Yeah.
There was another piece of Lamborghini news, and I just wanted to ask you very quickly
Yeah, they
about
quit
this.
the idea of electric car.
No, well, maybe not quit, but it's certainly not in the immediate future. They're going to focus on plug-in hybrids. There's the Lanzador, which is coming. I
Yeah,
think, in the next few
the idea
years.
was to have it fully electric.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's not.
not going to happen. Why is that?
We'll see what the Ferrari will do with the Luce. Okay, but if Luce will be successful in the market, probably the idea of the EV in Lamborghini will appear again. But I'm not sure at this moment.
No.
But see, it's an opposite situation when the Lamborghini released Urus, okay? And then Ferrari, after a couple of years, created the Purosangue.
Yeah.
They checked the market, they see what's the demand is. It was high because Urus is here like, let's say, Volkswagen Passat in Europe, okay?
Okay. So there is a space for it, is what
Yeah.
you're saying. UAE car market news, new model launches and reveals. There is a new RAV4 available. Okay.
I don't know anything about it.
No, it's fine. I've got the details here. It's a 6th generation model. 2-litre petrol engine. There's a 2.5-litre hybrid. 236 horsepower. They start just over 100,000
I didn't see, but I
dirhams.
hope they will do something to be more pleasant for my eyes, okay?
Do you know, I've got to say, the new RAV4, I think, is quite a nice-looking car. Remember the old,
Okay.
the first generation?
The third generation was
It looked like a
ugly.
roller skate that was
the
upside
present
down.
one looks like a Pokemon, okay? And I hope
I
they
don't
will
agree
do
with you.
something which will look more similar to our tastes.
To your tastes.
My taste, sorry.
Yeah, your
But
tastes.
I'm not denying the reliability of this car.
Oh, it's well, it's Toyota. What do you
Yeah.
do? That's out now. It starts about 106,000 dirhams, I think it is, for the kind of standard, and that's around about 150 for the top spec hybrid. New Lexus IS 350 sporty option.
That's
in
the one
luxury
problem with
sedan.
this car. This is extremely good car. The problem is widely used by Uber here.
Well, for obvious reasons.
Okay, but
Quite luxurious,
would you
very
buy the car to
reliable.
be identified like a Uber driver? I don't want it.
I've got 2 kids, and normally I'm a taxi driver anyway, so it wouldn't
Okay.
make any difference to me.
It's
I see what
like
you mean.
we were talking
But
about
this
the
is
Lexus.
a refresh of this car.
Years ago, we came here. We arrived to UAE. My wife told me I'd like to have a Lexus. After 1 month, she said no.
Oh, I remember this story.
I don't
I
want
know she didn't want it. It's out. Big
It's
new
a good car for
touchscreen.
sure,
2
but,
touch screens actually
Okay,
in there. Two big touchscreens, 12-inch touchscreens.
to distract the driver in a proper way.
Anything to distract you.
Okay.
No, I don't. But that's out, and there are new finishes. They start around about 200,000 dirhams, up to about 270.
This is
for the
extremely
special
good
edition.
car, but I mean the image of this car here is damaged by the limousine services. Same. This is okay. But, like you said, it's my taste, my ideas. That's why, for example, in my opinion, I don't want to have a here 7 Series or S Class or any car which is used by limousine service here. Do not be considered as a limousine driver. Okay.
Okay. Oh, well, limousine drivers are good drivers.
Okay, I have something else to do in my life.
What about this? We have a new. This was debuted at the Liwa International Festival. New Ford Everest. The Tremor is out. So this is the off-road SUV segment. Very much directed towards serious off-road driving. It has the kind of crawl control included. I think they call it a rock crawl drive mode, big alloys, the whole bit. That's the new SUV. You're going to start seeing
Off-road.
that a lot.
I prefer
It's targeted to the off-road
on
community.
the road, not
Yeah,
off-road.
I know you don't like driving in the sand, do you? But very powerful car as well. That's out. Starts around 195,000.
But you know, maybe I'm wrong because I'm not the off-road specialist, but I think in an off-road, the power is important, but not most important. The balance, the build, the quality, everything which matters in off-road.
Wheelbase.
Yeah,
Yeah.
also.
This one is going to interest you because you were talking about this before we came on air. The new Cadillac Escalade IQ. So 2026. This could, and I think you would go as far as say almost
That is
game
what
changing.
I think the European and American market manufacturers, factories are waking up right now after what happened with the Chinese automotive invaded them on their land.
Yeah, okay.
So, if you give me a choice, but as I said, Escalade is a first sign. After Escalade will come GMC and the Chevrolet, right?
Yeah.
So the reasonable price tag. So in this moment, if you have a similar spec but not so luxury with a reasonable price from US and opposite you have a Chinese car, I don't think so you would choose a Chinese car.
Look, you pay your money and you take your choice. So, but I'd say
You don't have this feeling. You see the car at the
competition.
traffic lights and you're asking, such a nice car. What brand is this? I don't know.
No, I suppose so. No, that's fair. Let me just run through some of the Escalade IQ specs because it's an office on wheels. This thing.
Yeah.
It is 750 horsepower. It's
Enough.
a very heavy car. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.7 seconds.
Yeah.
I know that's not a massive selling point, but it gives you some idea of the power. It solves the range anxiety hurdle.
You can splash your coffee inside, yeah.
You can. 205 kilowatt battery, 724 kilometers of range for a car
That's
that size.
important.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
I think. You can add 150 kilometers in 10 minutes with a fast charger, if you can find the fast charger. I know what you're going to say. The cabin inside, 55-inch curved LED display. I know you're going to laugh at that.
Not for the driver, I think.
No, that would be for passengers. 38-speaker AKG system. Studio reference system in there as well.
I know.
I mean, this is a serious piece of kit, isn't it?
It's interesting, really.
No, I think so, and I think you make a good point because Cadillac tend to lead, others tend to follow. It makes a statement. It's an expensive.
It's a cherry
car.
on the top in the group, right?
Exactly right. I think that's fair. But prices start at 586,000 dirhams. I mean, it's a hefty investment in a car. To me,
Escalade never been cheap.
No, you wouldn't expect it to be cheaper. No, absolutely not.
If it's too cheap, it's not interesting
Then
for
it's
some
not a caddy,
segment of the market, right?
But the reason I wanted to run through those specs there is I think that's very impressive. 724 kilometers, a car.
Impressive
that size,
is the range,
the
size
range
of the battery.
Yeah.
The rest is additional.
The rest is kind of what you have the right to expect.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah. Have you seen the Thebe X01?
No. What is this?
Well, this is
Kind of new fridge or the dishwasher?
No, this is very much not that. It's a 5-seater SUV.
Okay.
It's described as military spec. It's aimed at the off-road community, June
For
bashers.
the preppers.
Something like that, but not quite. But what's unique about this, it doesn't look exactly like it, but it reminds me of a G-Wagon. It's in that style. It's not quite as tall or boxy. It's a good-looking vehicle, but it's the first homegrown UAE off-road concept. Designed, built.
Sounds good.
Everything here. It's launched now. It's tri-motor, Hyper Grand Tourer. It says 1,200 horsepower, 0 to 100 sprint in 1.9 seconds. I mean, that's insane, isn't it? You laugh straight away.
Motorbike.
It's very, very fast. They're expensive. They're over 800,000
But the problem
dirhams,
with the electric cars is once you reach this, let's say 150 or 250, how long the battery lasts at the speed?
Yeah, but what you do is you don't ask those difficult questions. I've told you about this a million times.
That's why, if you give me a choice, a proper diesel turbocharged is the best way.
Fair. The thing about this, though, and the reason I bring this up is it's a shift from the UAE being a consumer of other people's cars, right? So this is innovation here. It's a good-looking car.
I think from the news which are coming to us in a very limited way, the country is doing some improvement in the military area. manufacturing many things. And I think it is important for the other industries here in the country, because the military gives you a leading kind of way, okay, to manufacture something which is very strong and hard. Then it spreads to another industries. And I think it's a sign that it's only the first sign. Maybe we'll see another invention like this next year on other brands, car brands and other industries as well.
It's a good point. There's another car I wanted to bring up with you, and there's a new version of this. The legacy of this vehicle is 50 odd years, 55 years, I think. This is the new Nissan Z, the Heritage Edition. So I was watching a review of this, a YouTube review of this yesterday, fully
There are a lot
blacked out.
of fans of this car.
People love this car. But I've got to say, and it comes in this kind of midnight purple finish as well that just looked...
Who cares? It has to drive in a proper way.
No, I know, but I looked at it and I thought, yeah, but I'm the guy. People say, which is your car? And I'm like, the black one. You know, that's just how I look at cars.
I'm suffering because I bought a blue car. Okay, I'm suffering. Okay.
See, you're as bad as I am these days. Yeah. What's the best colour for a car then?
White and black.
White and black. Okay, there you go. We all think that way.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it's available in this kind of orange colour as you would expect for a sports car as well. But it looks. It
probably is probably in the color that satisfy the proper customer.
It's a driver's car.
They target. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not driver's car.
Manual.
There's a specific segment of the market which is looking for such a car. Okay.
Retro soul modern performance. I read somebody applied to this. I don't quite know what that means, but I sort of understand.
We are
that.
too old, but are there in the market the proper population group which this car suits? Are they not too old?
I'm not so sure that's the case. I could see me cruising around in this. No, it's not my kind of thing, but I think it's going to be a very popular car. But it's 225,000 dirhams and up. That's when it starts. So it's affordable for the kind of vehicle it is. Horsepower, let me tell you, I'll just find it 400. 6-speed manual, 9-speed automatic.
Perfect.
As well. 3-litre twin turbo V6.
Perfect. The weight?
The weight,
they didn't mention.
I don't have the weight here, no, but pretty fast. 19-inch bronze alloys.
Doesn't matter.
No, I didn't think that would impress you. But there you are.
If the weight is a perfect car, I think.
A really good retro-looking sports car to buy. I think you're going to see a lot of these. There was another thing as well.
But only one problem. I forgot.
What's that?
It's from Japan.
There's nothing wrong with that. I've had a number of Japanese cars, and I've been very pleased with them.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. That's a new Nissan Z, anyway, or it's where I come from, the Nissan Z.
Yeah.
Toyota, new Land Cruiser Hybrid is now here. 457 horsepower.
The most powerful, yeah.
Most powerful Land Cruiser ever produced. Have you seen the pictures of this?
No.
The new, slightly boxier than it has been.
Are there
along the lines of the ones that you see now, obviously.
Are there any changes in the look?
No, I don't. I couldn't see anything. But
so the other option and a hybrid option to the market, which is not necessarily need this hybrid, right?
A lot of people want a hybrid.
What for?
Land Cruiser.
What for?
Well, you want a more powerful car. You're going to upgrade your car.
You can raise up the pressure on the turbochargers. It's easier.
389,900 dirhams they start at.
How much?
390,000 dirhams is I think that's the start.
Not expensive.
Available in a few different trims. Compared to the other Land Cruisers, no, it's not far off. I think it will sell. There's no shortage of Land Cruisers here. You like Land Cruisers. You admitted it a couple of weeks ago.
I told you I took for a weekend and to prove myself
that
it is a proper one. But it's not, sorry.
It's, well, I have to say I like them, but there you are. Just a reminder, you can find all of our interviews or highlights of these, of Luxury Breaks, our interviews, on YouTube, on Instagram, and LinkedIn. And this particular segment is also podcast as Luxury Breaks as well. That's pretty much all the time we've got. I didn't get to any of the trends. I just wanted to mention one thing. If you are applying for a driving license now, let me just find this. What's happening is that driver license training in Dubai now includes ADAS training. That is Advanced Driver Assistance Systems. So you get, as part of your driving license, there are going to be modules introduced.
How to not to lost in this options in the menu.
How to use Google Maps. No, it's not. It's a lot more than that. But it's training on the tech.
When you said ADAS, I remind myself ADAS is a yes, you're right.
Not as in Adidas or anything.
No, yeah,
like
I know what
ADAS.
the ADAS is.
I know, yeah.
Because I know it from the years we have it in the diagnostic systems in automotive, okay?
Exactly.
Now
Exactly.
it's so complicated that you have to train the customer how to manage them.
That's the
Before
point.
we had only to manage them.
That's the point. You have to train the mechanics as well. There are certain
No, mechanics know this from the years. That's no problem.
Yeah, but you've got to keep standards up. It's being introduced into garages as well. Well, that's coming, I believe. But it means that
It means
because there's
the
so
modern
much
car
smart
is so
tech-
complicated
Exactly.
that it's not possible to manage by the customer, right?
That's why they're bringing it into driver license training. If you're doing a
Sorry
car
to
license,
say
a
that.
light vehicle.
The idea is a proper one.
It's a good idea.
But the
Yeah.
necessity of this idea is ridiculous.
I think it's a good idea. It's things like forward collision warnings, blind spot monitoring. Blind spot monitoring, I think, is really important. Just to understand that you've got
sent
these
a
systems, but
last-
you also look.
Recently, I've sent a car for the service, and it came back with all the systems on.
Yeah, I know.
I spent a couple of minutes to turning all them off. Okay, pulling my steering wheel, vibrating everything, showing me some lights. I don't need it. Okay,
You were
I'm
very-
driving by
very-
myself.
I remember you were very
You know,
frustrated.
I know it's wrong. It's now the significant fine for that. But I remember the days I've spent 150 kilometers doing something on my mobile on the Autobahn in Germany, not slowing down below 150. So I have this auto cruise in my mind.
Yeah, okay.
Cruise control.
Yeah, well, maybe don't tell too many people about that story.
But you can easily see the drivers who are using the mobiles behind the wheel are more dangerous than the drunk drivers. You see that it's like this, and for sure he's tapping on a mobile.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Something has to be done about that. But I think anything that, when you're learning to drive, it's intimidating enough having to, learn to drive a vehicle.
Yeah, because the systems
Understand
are
the vehicle.
for exclude your knowledge of the physics. Okay.
Yeah.
So they have to learn you the system instead of learning you the physics of the car.
It's true. No, it's absolutely true. But that is now officially part of driver license training here in the UAE. That's it on Luxury Breaks this week. You can find Jacek Ziomek at
Thank
X
you.
Motors in Alco's. Good to see you. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more interviews like this from Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio. Mira Business FM. The sound of success.
On the morning drive, we're talking about oil and gas a great deal at the moment, but there is another liquid and powder moving through our oceans that's just as vital for us all, and that is fertilizer. Now, tensions around the Strait of Hormuz and the growing threat to fertilizer supply are raising fresh concerns for global food markets. Disruptions to transport routes and key agricultural inputs could put pressure on crop production, productivity, and ultimately food prices. And the United Nations is warning that these are building in terms of the risks with potential impact for both developing economies and major exporters. Joining us, Frida Youssef is the chief of the transport section at UN Trade and Development, UNCTAD, and is here to unpack what this means for global trade, food security, and how the UN as well is responding. Frida, you're very welcome. It's good of you to join us today.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me.
First of all, this is a situation affecting nearly a third of the world's traded fertilizer supply. Could you put into perspective just how serious the situation is at the Strait of Hormuz and the implications for fertilizer supply, first of all?
So when you have one of the most critical choke point for energy supply and all related commodities such as fertilizer coming to a halt, close to a halt, it has a serious impact. The disruption that we are witnessing across the Hormuz Strait is starting to having an impact on not only the energy but also fertilizers, and which in turn will have repercussion on food production and food supply. And why so? Like you rightly said, 1/3 of the global fertilizer seaborne trade is carried through the Hormuz. So any disruption at this level would have, again, repercussion, like I said, on the food supply. And what we have been witnessing over the past, since the start of the crisis, a sharp drop in transit through the Hormuz from, an average of about 130 transit per day. That was during the period of 1st to 27 February, we're seeing now around maybe a single digit, like maybe 6 to 7 vessel per day. And this has, like I said, serious repercussion on the supply of fertilizers, as well as on gas and oil, and gas being an important material input to also produce fertilizer.
Frida, how quickly could this start affecting agricultural production and yields?
Yes, so what we're seeing now is really the impact is really happening at the price of fertilizer. We've seen an increase of 20%, for example, 20 to 30% in the price of urea. So what does it mean? This means that the farmers are being impacted with this increase in cost of fertilizer, as well as availability of fertilizers. And this decision, this issue will impact their decision in terms of plantation. And this is now the season for planting, more specifically in the northern hemisphere part. So when you have a decision taken today in terms of how much you're going to be able to use in terms of fertilizers, or whether you would decide to switch to crops that are less intensive or less reliable on fertilizer, this will have an impact on the production in the coming months when the crops will start to be harvested. So the immediate impact is an impact on price and availability of fertilizer, which in turn will have an impact on the decision for harvesting, but the production will see it in the coming months with the harvest of crops.
What does it mean for global food prices in the near term?
In terms of food prices in the near term, where we're already witnessing an increase in inflationary price are going up, and this will lead to increase in inflation, not necessarily in shortage, but really inflationary risk, and this will would have repercussion again on the food production, food supply, and consumer price ultimately.
Which regions are most exposed to the risks that we're seeing right now?
Now, in terms of regions, for example, I would say Asia is one of the most region that is being affected because of their reliance on energy supply from the Gulf. Almost 85% of their supply, is Asia, as well as the fertilizers import. Now, you have also countries that are highly also dependent on fertilizer imports, specifically from the region.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
Good morning, everybody. By habit, I was going to say good afternoon. You're listening to Crossroads at Mira Business FM in collaboration with Middlesex University, Dubai. My name is David Tully, and I am your gracious co-host with my even more gracious co-host, Dima Magal. Say, Dima.
Thank you. Hello, David.
Hello, hello. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Top of the world. Grading's almost done. Summer is nearly upon us. It's time for surf and fun. But we'll get to all surf talk later. First, I want to.
We never do.
Right, well.
You always say we have time to talk about it, but we just jump to our
This
guests.
time, I am determined. We're going to talk for at least 15 minutes about surfing. All right. No, we're going to talk right now about, I'm going to introduce our guest, which we're so happy to have on here today, Talal Al-Najjar. Now, I'm going to talk just for a second about Talal, and then I'm going to actually let you talk, Talal. But he's part of I'm just going to read it. He's part of the newer generation of contemporary Emirati artists working between Dubai and Los Angeles. I want to talk about that a little bit. We're going to call you an artist, correct? Mm-hmm. Not a painter, not a sculptor, but you, because your work is very conceptual and experimental. It blends sculpture, CGI, video, installation, sound, and archival imagery. This goes into talking about what you do, but we're going to get to that in a second. I believe you know Dima. Is this correct? That's how you first made contact with each other? Is that right? No?
Yet to know him. We just got the name. But
What?
no, I mainly was interested in Talal's work because he's exhibiting this week in Art Dubai.
Yeah, I'm doing a bunch of projects with them, but I'm not showing in the gallery kind of booth this year. But yeah, I'm giving an artist-led tour later today, doing a talk with them in the Guggenheim on Sunday. Mm-hmm. I did some stuff for their 20th anniversary shop too.
And you also have show openings too.
Oh yeah, I'm in a show in Tabari Art Space right now that opened Monday in the IFC, and I'm in a show at Jameel Art Center that opens Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of shows.
Yeah, I've been juggling.
Busy man.
Yeah, so he has lots of shows, lots of work between Dubai and Los Angeles. So tell us more about your work, because you have a explosion of art all together, mixed mediums, right? How did you get there? And also you're between Dubai and Los Angeles. What do you do here? What do you do there? And how did you get into all this mixed mediums? Tell us more about your work.
And I gotta ask before you start answering. It says, the piece that I was reading from you, you're part of the newer generation of contemporary Emirati artists working between Dubai and Los Angeles. Are there others too?
No, not necessarily. Yeah, I mean, I did my grad school in LA.
Okay.
And so I was there 2.5 years. I actually lived in Chicago for 5.
I noticed that from
Yeah.
I was going to get to that later. So you lived in Chicago for 5 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
when I was doing my bachelor's, I went to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago.
Awesome. Okay.
Fun
No,
time.
I as usual, I start answering before people have a chance to answer when
No,
somebody
you're
else asks a
good.
question. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I grew up here. I was born and raised here. I'm Emirati. My mom's from the States, though, from New York. And,
right.
yeah, Manhattan.
Just like me. New York.
Hell yeah. And, so I kind of always knew I was going to go study there at the very least. I spent my summers in the States, seeing family, kind of bouncing between states. Grandparents are from the Midwest. Used to go up there, too, cowboy country. And so I studied in Chicago, did my bachelor's there. I think I was obviously kind of I was 17 actually when I moved there, and I was experimenting, kind of finding my I guess like visual and conceptual language artistically, and I was always really into like doing everything with painting, sculpture, making film and video, sound production, kind of video and even animation and sound production. I kind of taught myself kind of DIY style, like since I was like 12.
Really?
Yeah.
You started that young?
Yeah, just out of like a nerdy interest. I would like learn off like YouTube tutorials and trial and error. And, and I have a lot of interests that like outside, like nerdy interests, like archaeology and history and astronomy and philosophy and stuff like that. And
Nothing nerdy about all those. I thought you were going to say like Star Wars or something.
Yeah, I like Star Wars too.
Okay.
I'm a big sci-fi head, and I wanted to find a way to kind of make my practice encapsulate kind of all my interests and what I think or care about. And I think I was very conscious of developing that during my bachelor's and kind of like how can I make all these different things that I'm making in different mediums kind of cohesive somewhat. I feel like I actually work with the same logic kind of whether I'm making a painting or a film or things like that. So I think nowadays, or towards the end of my bachelor's and then kind of developed it, kind of went all in for my master's degree in LA. Now when I do shows, say if it's a solo especially, it's kind of a mix of every, there's like usually like over like 20 objects and stuff. Usually I try to kind of I have fun with seeing people try to tiptoe around things and not like, I kind of create an obstacle course sometimes. But yeah.
So when you say you have the same philosophy behind either a digital art or film, you said, I think this is something that Deem and I were talking about when she said she had met you, and there was talk about you possibly coming on the show, which we're very happy you did.
Pleasure.
And I was one thing I really was saying I wanted to talk to you about was the idea of, I don't want to use the word static imagery. Still imagery might be a better word. Still imagery versus moving imagery. It's great that you're on for a number of reasons, one of them being that we often have people from film or television on the show, and you are moving, you do that as well, obviously, as you just said, but you also work in still imagery. And there's a cultural critic I love named Camille Paglia. I don't know if you ever read any of her, but her big book was Sexual Personae about 30 years ago.
Yeah,
But
it sounds familiar.
She had a book about 15 years ago, I'd say, called Glittering Images, in which she was arguing in the introduction that no children growing up in the 21st century have the ability to look at art, look at paintings, sculpture, still art, still images. And so she was trying to give a sort of art history and teaching people in this day and age how to perceive or appreciate still imagery, to stop and take that in. Do you think that there's a divide? Do you think she's right that there's a divide? Do you think that people need to be taught how to see the work you do?
I don't know. If we're talking about like kids in general, I feel like maybe. I mean, I was running around when I was a kid going to like MoMA or the Guggenheim or whatever, and I would, I was still a kid, so I'm like, when can we go outside? When can I get my hot dog or whatever, And
but your parents took you to these to create an appreciation.
Yeah, because I'd
Exactly.
continuously go, I guess, practice. But I think it is beneficial. I think the idea of kind of like learning to see, so to speak, in that sense, kind of, especially with art, it can't be surface level reads, especially like conceptual art. And yeah, obviously this day and age, like attention spans have shrunk and stuff, and
Well, we're buffeted, we're assaulted by moving images
Yeah,
constantly.
yeah.
Everywhere we look,
Yeah,
there's
you
a
know,
screen.
this is exactly what David and I were discussing before you arrived, is basically because this generation is so much exposed to digital media and, again, short attention span and stuff. Do you think it naturally develops your ability to combine mediums together? As David says, rather than just still images, do you find it more expressive to mix it with audio, video? Like, this approach was mainly, you find it more expressive for you, especially your themes are mainly about identity, isolation.
yeah,
right?
I feel like video and audio is very powerful, and I feel like I try to utilize it to. I guess I'm like playing on all or most senses when I do a show. I think, and I also like things to disrupt each other or like bleed on each other, so to speak, like a projection of a video that already has a lot of distortion via either the camera work and then post-production, and then physically distorting that, like projecting it on a sculpture, and it's like hitting different obstacles before it hits like the wall or something, and kind of say even like projecting unconventionally rather than just like a kind of generic frame.
But when the audience is within that space, and you were talking about how you like watching them tiptoe around or try to
Yeah.
move through it, in a sense, it forces them to stop moving. It forces them to immerse themselves in a moment
Totally.
and in an environment.
Yeah.
So in a way, I'd say you could argue you're doing the exact same thing that a Renaissance painter did, because it was about making people stop moving. It was about them contemplating
Yeah.
something. And it's, I guess the argument Camille Paglia was making, and that's what I'm asking you about. Do you find it hard to find people get people to do that?
Yeah, I do. So I think there's like, I guess, strategies I employ, like, like whether creating kind of obstacles or overcrowding a smaller space. I'm a bit maximalist, I think, with my approach usually. But also, yeah, sometimes it's like tripping people out, But I think
Actually, they are trippy. Like, his work is trippy with like light, colors, all this kind of thing. But still, it does have some identity.
yeah, I think I like the idea of the audience kind of, or a viewer in the space becoming suddenly hyper aware of their own kind of like spatial presence and their own kind of body in relation to the space and the work, rather than say when you walk in kind of more like a white cube gallery situation where it's this supposed kind of like blank space, and then each work sometimes is supposed to be kind of seen without its context, because in isolation. But I feel like I try to, rather than that, I guess, try to create a context and kind of make the work that's still in relation to the space it's in. Like, I'll show work in one way at this show, I can show the same work in a different show in a new way, and I play around.
Well, clearly your work is adapted. I mean, you
Yeah.
listed so many shows and events you're a part of, even just recently or this weekend. And
It's
so
been busy.
clearly there's your work is adaptable to a lot of contexts and environments. So would you say that you, in a way, create the gallery rather than place yourself within a gallery?
Yeah, I feel like I like disrupting a space, so to speak, and transforming it. I think I'm very into the idea of like world building and stuff, and I feel like again, it's kind of different when I'm in a group show or solo. Obviously, a solo show, I have like control over the space and kind of many different works of mine interacting, as opposed to like a group show that I have to compromise more with that, but. Yeah, I don't know, like creating this space, thinking world building and like set design almost, like, and each thing becomes almost like this subject or actor and, in this little world.
So if I'm stealing one of your questions that you gave me.
No,
Is that
no,
okay?
go ahead. You're
Stealing it.
always okay.
I give full props to Dima for this one. One of the questions she had sent to me and said, "What about we ask this talk about the difference between decorative art and conceptual art?" And clearly, what you're talking about is conceptual art. You create a concept. And whereas a gallery might have decorative art, could you talk a little bit, in your own opinion, what is the difference between decorative and conceptual?
Yeah, I feel like at least in art school you're trained to be a conceptual artist. I think especially now in contemporary art, that's kind of the goal, or at least the kind of main structure, as opposed to perhaps in history where pre-camera you know, you're like depicting life and humans or whatever, or like kind of status and things like that. That then, you know, painting became way more abstract after the camera, because like what can this do differently? How can it be reevaluated? And I feel like art generally became way more conceptual, you know, like modernist work too and stuff. And yeah, I mean, decorative art, I guess, is something that is made to be taken at surface level sometimes, so to speak. And I feel like is, I don't know if generic's the right word, but like you can find it kind of everywhere. And I mean, like they have like framed photos of lettuce at Subway, you know, like it's like printed on canvas and stuff. I actually find it hilarious. It's just like you're looking at a loaf of bread or whatever.
I never noticed that. I'm gonna take in the decor in Subway more carefully next time.
I've always paid attention to it, and I think it's funny. But I think it's valid in its own right. It functions for what it does. But I think conceptual art is obviously more interesting to me. But I think, yeah, the concept becomes kind of the main idea to kind of both pursue, but also to kind of put out there. And then obviously, I'm still, say, aware or conscious of visual aesthetics too and things like that. And I feel like I was trained to have the work, say, visually also relay what it is conceptually, or like to titillate the ideas at the very least. So I like cold reads in my work sometimes. Say, like I did like 7 years of critiques, you know. So I feel like I got pretty good too at like reading art, but also speaking about it. And you know,
Do you think sometimes you said you like cold reads? Other people doing cold reads of your art. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Because do you think that sometimes Tom Wolfe wrote this great book years ago. I'm sure you had encountered at some point in art school, the Painted Word.
Yeah.
Right, which was his critique of everything you were talking about the trends in modern art towards abstraction, towards concepts. Because not why you went into it. You already said why it happened, but he was saying it wasn't good because you had to be told why something was good. You had to be told why Mark Rothko was interesting, or a Jackson Pollock. You had to take an art history class to understand that, and there had to be a theory and concept behind it. And he was saying that was bad.
Yeah, because there's maybe the inaccessibility of it.
You know, can I add to that? There's always that question, especially in art, that when you create art, do you create art that actually you go down to people's level? I don't mean going down, but I mean like especially in communities who are not that much exposed to art or your type of art, and especially when you're presenting a new concept. So there's this discussion that do artists actually create art that resonate with people, or it should resonate with themselves only, even if it's advanced, and people need to step up to that level and educate themselves to that art. So in your case, especially that you're Emirati as well, but your work is pretty much conceptual and individual. Do you see that subtle, or you feel that subtle expectation that you present something resonates with Emirati heritage, or do you have that consciously or unconsciously in your mind that a sense of responsibility that I need somehow to present something that represents Emirati heritage and culture?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do that in different ways, maybe less explicitly. I mean, I've had these animated video works where I was using like 3D models from like Sharjah of like ancient, like Bronze Age, like figures, like little sculptures and stuff, and blowing them up, putting it next to a car and like a spaceship, and kind of collapsing time in that sense. But I was interested, say, maybe in those angles of heritage, like this really ancient history that I think, as at least when I was a kid, I wasn't like taught, and I think it made me curious. And so I would use things like that, or otherwise sometimes, I mean, I usually say like, I don't try to explicitly, I think sometimes be like, oh, how does this kind of represent my culture, so to speak, because it's kind of embedded. It's like within, this is the culture I grew up in. Obviously, I come from more than one culture as well, so I have those sensibilities, but I think it's in there, you know, like kind of everyone's culture, so to speak, is in the work. I don't find the need to make it too in your face, so to speak, or I rather gravitate towards, say, maybe archaeological references or spatial references, or even like, I don't know, crass kind of things of like day-to-day life here, rather than kind of maybe like a more quickly recognized symbol of like, I don't know, like using a falcon or something.
You're not hitting anybody over the head with a symbol or a
Yeah,
message, rather.
Yeah, I want it to
Yeah.
be, speaking of accessibility, accessible to people. Obviously, I like my work being investigated. I like, I'm at the museums like 2 inches away from the painting, I don't want it to be like that you see it from like a mile away, you're like, oh, I get it, I feel like it should kind of throw you off a bit and kind of prompt investigation. And I try to make it accessible, kind of, I think, that I want to get the same effect across, so to speak, between whether it's someone who is not trained in art or didn't go to art school, doesn't know art history maybe, to kind of get at least that feeling, like that affect I'm going for, or like the things I want them to now think about or reevaluate. But at the same time, certain things can be recognized by, say, someone who went to who did like a MFA program or something. Be like, oh, this makes me think of this like book by like J.G. Ballard, or like this makes me think of like Cronenberg, or even like this makes me think of this essay.
Are those
by
guys
Freud.
influences on your
Yeah,
work?
totally. Even I've like referenced this like Freud essay a lot called The Uncanny. So there's people who can perhaps pick up on those things, but it doesn't take away from because even those references I'm not making too explicit. I mean, who was it? Jean-Paul Sartre has a book called Nausea. I had a show titled Nausea. And I was thinking of that, obviously, kind of like philosophical kind of nausea, but also the nausea of today, kind of overstimulation, overimposed, like image and information overload and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, Sartre's book is almost 100 years old at this point, right? But he's talking about, not that we're going to take a side detour into philosophy, but as I remember and understand it, the vertigo you get when you sort of dislocate from all your old sense of reality and self. And I think that's more timely than it's ever been, as somebody just surfs the internet and is under this barrage of information. What is reality? Who am I?
Totally.
So yeah, I mean that you don't need an education. Well, I guess what I'm saying is you don't need the education in what who Sartre was or what he was talking about to know what you're talking about in terms of nausea.
Exactly.
But if you have those. If you have that education in philosophy or art or whatever, you can get those references and appreciate another level. But we had a guest on a few weeks ago, and it was sadly when you weren't here. So I'll tell you about it. But we were talking about, and we only had like 20 minutes this one time. It was a weird thing. It was our shortest episode, probably because it was me just awkward pauses, couldn't keep the conversation going. But we had to wrap it up after 20 minutes. But we started talking about art education, exactly what you're talking about. And your parents brought you to the Guggenheim. They brought you to MoMA. They gave you that art education. That's a very rare thing in this day and age, anywhere on the planet. Even for kids growing up in New York, that their parents are going to take the time to educate them in art history or in archaeology history, philosophy, anything history. We're just living in the moment now with no sense of history. Do you think you went to art school, so you got that art? What would you say is the value of that education for anybody, even who isn't even this? Because again, to bring it back one last time, and then I'll drop her that Camille Paglia book, Glittering Images. Her introduction is this call for the whole reason she wrote the book is that they've wiped out study of art, study of literature, study of philosophy from education throughout the world. And because it's not seen in a capitalist world as generating a buck, or even in a communist world, probably. It doesn't have a utilitarian value.
Yeah.
So what is the defense in your view?
I mean, art's like the thing that also makes us human, Also, I had a friend of mine who's a great curator, runs a great artist-run space called Beit al-Mamzar. His name's Ghaith Abdallah. I remember him hitting me with like a thing that made me step back for a second, like 6 years ago. He was curating a show I was in, and he said, like, the only reason we know about history at all is because of art, like art at large, whether architecture, literature, the written word, figures, like sculptures, everything. And
That's a great point.
yeah, I was like, because it's so kind of simple to say, but then people, I guess, don't kind of think of it like that.
No.
And then it's like, yeah, it's because of art that we even know ourselves, and from cave paintings to memes.
Absolutely. It's the best record we have of how people lived and thought.
Totally, and perhaps they function differently. Maybe sculptures had more of like these ritualistic kind of purposes, and yeah, I think the idea also that art is not so utilitarian, especially like conceptual art, is also this thing that why do we make art? I feel like I remember in art history, you always get the art history 101, like cave paintings, stuff like that. And I always like this idea of the ones with the handprints, like this kind of gesture of just kind of like I exist, kind of. Like they didn't have there was no function, so to speak, necessarily. They probably mythologized when they were doing it and stuff. But, other animals don't tend to make art,
This is the thing.
Maybe this recently about like the value of art school, or like we don't necessarily need art school.
Or even just an art course in a regular school.
Yeah, I'm totally against that. Like now, the fact that he's talking about the uncanny and certain philosophies and art history, he's not just an artist. He's like he's coming with some depth that he knows how to build.
Well, every art
on
bleeds
that.
into every other, which is why your conceptual art is so useful.
For example, I realized being in art school myself before getting into filmmaking and also teaching other students that we naturally, without recognizing, we do have voice. But we recognize it more when we are working with mentors and artists. So, for example, when I was at art school, maybe I found myself just drawn into drawing just like faces in a certain way, not necessarily in a classic way. And I thought, this is unacceptable, or I need to do it differently. But then it's my professors who said, hey, this is expressionism. You work towards expressionism. Look at these artists. Educate yourself in that path. And it's then when not only it gives confidence, it gives you that education and knowledge, and also how you can develop accordingly. Where do you stand as an artist? So it definitely shapes your voice. So
Totally.
your professors must be proud of you, hearing you, remembering all these books. And
Yeah, I hope so. No,
stuff.
my professors were cool. And I think, I think art education is important. But I was very specific with what programs I went to, because there are art schools or programs that are more rigid and old school, where, there was one when I was applying in high school to colleges and stuff. One was kind of like, if you go in as a painter, you already had to declare like one of these as a discipline. If you went in as a painter, that's what you're doing. Like you're painting. Those are the classes
You can't
take.
change your mind later.
Yeah, and then but the SCIC in Chicago and then Art Center College of Design had this kind of small cult-like MFA program that I really liked. They were very, very interdisciplinary, and I was able to take sculpture, film, painting, all the different studio classes, but on top of my kind of academic classes or liberal arts, I would be taking like mythology and anthropology, or like politics of archaeology, or existentialism class and things like that. So I was able to kind of learn what I also wanted. They had a lot of options to pick for electives and stuff. And I was very picky and being like, okay, I'm interested in this, and also in regard to my practice. And I think it's all one. That's why, I tend to like call myself an artist, sometimes curator when I'm doing that. But, rather than, I don't know, there's some people who know me as a sculptor, some know me as a video artist or filmmaker, some kind of know me more as this.
What does it say on your business card?
Artist. I like it. It just encapsulates everything. And I'm very like, I feel like we need like more art schools over here.
But how do you see
Yeah, that's something I'd talk about.
You said that we need more artists?
More art schools
over
More
here.
art
Because
schools,
there's only a few programs available. NYU has a new Masters of Fine Art program that I have friends in the cohort, and so that's nice to see.
It's an obsession of mine, the way they're cutting arts programs and art schools out of everywhere, from primary school up through university. And it's because the world is becoming so education world is becoming so increasingly utilitarian. And as you guys have been saying, it does have a utility, and it's a very important utility, but it's something that you often can't count in dollars.
You know, can I add to this? I think personally that it maybe they don't pay attention that much for art schools here because they don't know how the art landscape is here. Like if you study art, then what are you gonna?
What are you going to get? A job.
A job.
And that's what I mean when I say you can't count it in dollars.
Yeah.
All of education has become vocational school. About we can guarantee you this job with this income when you graduate. Education was not supposed to be that. Only that.
So
Once upon a time.
I saw it really bold, and that's why I'm mainly interested in your work. And is because how did you break through that, like to become an artist yourself? And again, like you're Gen Z in a digital world, everyone just want to be influencer, and you could have easily picked up your video created content, right? And that's it. But no, you took another traditional path, which is exhibiting, being in between museums, art galleries and stuff. So how did you get into that? How did you mainly see the landscape here, especially that you're between Dubai and Los Angeles? What do you think? My next question will come later. I break it down. I don't want to bombard you with questions.
No, you're good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like when you started as well here, how do you see the art scene here?
I think I was very conscious of what I wanted to do and that I wanted to be an artist since I was a kid. It definitely was a huge influence and help that my mother's an artist, professionally exhibits sometimes in the, that we're showing in the same places. It's funny when people don't know if we're related because different names and stuff, and then it's, I don't know. And my brother's an artist. My dad's an architect, very kind of artist, leading architect. So I was encouraged.
It's in the genes.
Yeah, I was very encouraged also. Like my mom used to teach also at school and would like come home and like make my brother do these kind of arts and craft things, even as like, a 4-year-old. I have drawings of mine I did when I was like 2 or 3. They're mad weird. I love it. But so I think I was encouraged, but obviously not just here, but everywhere there's this kind of cliche thing of, oh, you're going to study art? Yeah, exactly. Like you can't get a job, and which is always kind of goofy to me because I'm like, I work at the Guggenheim Museum here in Abu Dhabi. I'm like, I can get a job like with the art. I could work at a bank tomorrow if I wanted to with my degree in arts. Like it's not.
Yeah,
it
if
doesn't
you've got
really
a
stop
university
you.
degree, you can
That's
get
the
any
thing.
job you want.
Exactly,
Yes.
that's the thing. And
But beyond that, there is this absolute need for what you do.
yeah, and I think. Yeah, I guess there's this kind of like gap or the perhaps like ignorance, even if well-intentioned, of how art functions in this kind of, make a buck world. And I think it probably made me kind of just be like, well, I'll show you. So I did it, and I was very conscious of going like deep, and I was like, it's all or nothing. So I started exhibiting when I was 16. I think my first time I exhibited was in the Sikka Art Fair when I was 16. And then I went to the States right after. So I was very intentional about doing it. I thought it was important. My work, it was completely different then than it is now. But I've lectured students before at Zayed University in their arts program. And I'm friends with some of their professors who also went to art school in the States and stuff. And I like encouraging students and kind of maybe breaking those kind of barriers or misconceptions about like, can you... Because I know there are also art programs, including the ones I went to in the States, where a lot of them, maybe because they weren't steered the right way or their own kind of misconceptions, just don't practice after, Yeah,
but they're not encouraged to.
Yeah, and
this is not a world that encourages. I mean, across all the cultures, whether we're talking about here or America or Europe or anywhere, it's not a world that any longer encourages that.
Yeah, I think you need to, like, as a student, be actively, like, exhibiting and stuff, because that's what I would do. I'd be in the States, and I'd come here for breaks and do, like, shows. I was stuck here for, like, the kind of most part of, say, 2020, was it? Because of COVID and stuff. But it turned into a blessing. I ended up meeting a lot of cool artists, kind of this underground scene of art school misfits here. And people who are, kind of like-minded and stuff. And just doing shows, like DIY shows, like I think it's good to take the initiative yourself. Like, I think some people are like, okay, I graduated art school, so when does the gallery come? It's like you need to put yourself out there first. I've done DIY shows. I've done shows at museums. I've, like, high, low, everything, low brow, goofy shows, and I think it's important to kind of just like do that, experiment stuff. Like I saw a show at an active construction site once in LA by an artist who's like with a blue chip gallery. So I think those things are important, but you really do have to. I guess you have to almost be an entrepreneur because you're kind of a one man brand. You're
If you're an artist, for sure,
Especially
yeah.
in the gallery
and
thing.
any art, I think.
because then you're put in this international market, especially if you start working with galleries.
Oh, sorry. Did you come?
Oh,
closer?
yeah, so-
That's why I got
Yeah.
the headset on.
So yeah, I think like I don't know, there's a price tag attached to my name and stuff, which is it's out of my control too.
But you cultivated yourself as a brand, which I think has to be done, and it has to be
Yeah.
done whether you do that, whether you're a writer, whether you're a film director, or whatever.
This is pretty much our conversation last week, if you remember, with
With Dana.
yes, yeah. It was mainly about being a writer and also entrepreneur. Remember,
yeah, that's
it,
true.
it was mainly.
And since this is business radio, it's a good thing we're bringing it down sooner or later. But this, I'm going to steal another one of your themes that Dina said she wanted to discuss with you at one point, because this ties into what you're saying right now. She had written as
David,
one
you
theme.
can just say it.
Can artists stay authentic? I don't want to steal your thunder.
No,
you were building up to it.
Teamwork.
Can artists stay authentic while working within luxury and institutional art spaces? I mean, you're talking here about it's a given that you want to hit those luxury galleries and stuff because, yeah, it's a big payday. Great, you've made it if you had it. But can they stay authentic? And what is authentic? I guess we could also talk about.
Yeah,
too.
I think so. I think that's actually the most important thing. I also, when I interact with students now or lecture students or talk to anyone, I think as an artist, the most important thing is kind of, I think, being authentic, making the work you want to make. Like I don't make work with the intention of, oh, will this sell? Does this work for the commercial market? Like I make what I want to make.
Do you think there are artists out there who do think in terms
totally,
of
totally. Yeah, but to me it's like selling out because then I've spoken to artists like that and asked them, and they give me like an autopilot like one-liner, and I'm like, I can tell you're not into whatever you're doing, or you don't mean it, or you're making about something you don't care about, and you can tell, and I think
So it's exactly the same thing that happens to filmmaking too, especially in Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, like there's filmmakers say like David Cronenberg, people like that. I feel like are very artist-like because their work conceptually is very. There's a thread and there's a practice and there's things they're interested in.
Yeah.
And then there's directors that are more kind of
It's a
for
job.
hire blockbuster kind of
Yeah.
gigs. It's like they'll take whatever. It doesn't matter. Conceptually, they do like 5 extremely different films, which is also okay. But I think they're less like of an artist as some other filmmaker, David Lynch or whatever. Like making works that are very conceptually driven.
They became a brand because they were true to themselves,
Yeah.
rather than you couldn't name anybody who directs a Marvel movie because
Yeah.
they're work for hire. It's craftsmen.
Yeah, and the other
fine,
ones who
but-
are more artists also a lot of times make visual art too. You find drawings and paintings by a lot
Especially
of these.
David Lynch.
Yeah.
He had a lot of paintings and
Exactly.
sculptures.
So I
Yeah, in
think
fact,
it's-
that's how he started. He kind of stumbled into film.
How do you see the landscape though here? Like because you have exposure to both the art scene here in Dubai and LA. So what kind of missing conversations or things to implement you see that is actually missing here and you wish to see it happening?
I think the art landscape's definitely been kind of like growing and developing in very interesting ways more recently. I was very different than I was. To be honest, like when I left for art school, kind of I was a bit kind of pessimistic about kind of what I thought art was, the art landscape here in general. But I feel like there was still a lot of I don't know, people not getting certain things or whatever. But I don't know. LA is very, very wild, kind of avant-garde, risque, and kind of grungy. Which I like.
Trying
a lot.
to shock.
Yeah.
When you say risque.
Yeah, but I think there's benefits to kind of shock also, but not to have something shocking for shock value's sake.
Exactly.
But
It becomes too much of a cliche.
because you can use something shocking or provocation as a tactic to then like kind of provoke questions, and then something shocking, and then it makes you reevaluate something or
If you're
whatever.
shocked out of a rut of thinking into a new way of looking at things, that's one thing. But if you're shocked because somebody's saying, "Yeah, you're an uptight square,"
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
a cliche.
Totally. There's nothing behind that.
Yeah.
So I think over here it's been developing in a lot of interesting ways. I have heard from, I don't know, the fact that some students would like me or my work and what I do, and that I think it is important and enjoy, say, lecturing students. It's like, I don't know, I'm like infecting the art schools, but with what I
That's a
learned.
way of looking at education, an infection.
It's like tainting it, yeah. But
Yeah, but you said it so well. I can't remember anyone putting it so succinctly that culture is the best way of preserving history, of teaching history, of how people lived and thought. You put it even better. Now I have to listen to it later again because I can't remember. But it was what somebody who was putting together a show had said to you too about nothing tells us about how people live and think better than art. Nothing does that. So it has that utility.
Yeah, exactly. If it is maybe the essence of being human, because we express ourselves in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I just wrote I'll plug it again. I just wrote a book about storytelling and why it's so important, because it not only shapes and makes us better individuals, but then by extension, it does the whole thing to a culture. Art does that. It shapes a culture and it makes it better when the art is good.
Yeah, I think art is also meaning making, I feel like I'm engaged in making meaning, for the art, but that in relation to the world, I don't see my art as kind of something isolated from that. It's a part of the world, it's related to it, it references different aspects of it. It's all one. I don't know. I always joke. I feel like when you're an artist, you don't clock out, because I'm just always thinking about that. Or even if I'm watching a documentary on
if you were
astronomy,
clocking out, it would be a job, and that's the thing. It's not.
It's all consuming,
Yeah.
and it becomes torturous, like the cliche sometimes. But it's my passion, and passion means suffering, and it's real. But I suffer for it, and it's worth it.
I like your view about it, like how you keep mentioning culture, human authenticity, and in one of our episodes as well that we had about authenticity and storytelling, we were talking about how Gen Zs now, they see authenticity different than other generations, because now, again, exposed to digital media and stuff. Now, in your work, you're also mixing multiple mediums. Now, I see visual arts, whether like painting or graphic art, the most vulnerable medium for expression. Because when we work on films, we have editing, we think how the audience might perceive something, we try to provoke emotions or manipulate emotions, basically. So you shape things, you alter a lot. But when you're alone with the canvas, you literally pour all your emotions without thinking what the final outcome is. In other mediums, you think of the outcome, you alter accordingly. For visual art, it's totally the opposite.
It's more like raw and naked. You're putting yourself out there, unfiltered.
Absolutely. Even in music, it takes some shape and editing meanwhile, because this what the outcome could be. But for visual art, it's literally just like throwing all your emotions on canvas and tweak it based on your own taste and so on. Now, since we are going through more of digital direction, especially yours, because now this is a good question for you. I mean, you're the right person to ask that. Not for you. Good question to have.
Take our word for it. This is a good question. You're really going to like this one.
I believe it. I'm sold.
Yeah. So now, because you're the right person to ask, because you're dealing with both mediums, right? You're dealing with sculpture, you're dealing with also canvas and the digital elements. While mixing all these things, what do you think recently, or since we have digital, I feel I took so long for the question.
We got time. You're good.
I'm starting to forget what my point is.
It's less question than monologue, but it's very moving. Very informative.
I do the same thing all the time. Don't worry about it.
I feel I was tripping with the question.
7 years ago.
And I can see he's trying to understand, okay, what is the question? Here's the question. in this,
Payoff time.
Hit me, yeah.
actually, it could have finished in one line. It's just because I have so much backstory. But anyway, since now we have lots of digital elements, what remains authentic in such art? Thank you.
Yeah, it's good.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a question.
By authentic.
It is a
Did I
good one.
finish?
You were
No,
right.
no,
Why
it's-
is Spanish on the music?
No, it's cool. By authentic.
You got my
Yeah, do you
question.
kind of mean like intuition, like because you can be maybe more
No,
intuitive
I
on
mean
a
because
canvas.
when working in digital elements, we do alter a lot.
Yeah, there's the
Okay.
structure is different.
Yes, it doesn't. It's not raw anymore. But so, what remains actually authentic about that work?
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's authentic with all the post-production stuff. It might be a little less intuitive in some senses, but I feel like even when I'm editing video or film, it's very intuitive. I'm like having fun with it. But yeah, of course, like even if I'm working on sculpture versus painting, there's like structural logic I have to also, or material things like mixing this or this doesn't mix with that or this like is toxic and this takes 24 hours to cure it, so I have to wait before I can do any other layer. I have to make sure it doesn't fall and crush someone, you know, like Richard Serra or whatever. But like with the painting, yeah, there's sometimes it's actually less stressful. Like I don't know, sometimes when I'm like stressed doing video, film, and then sculpture or something, I go to painting because it's like there's a
Control.
there's you're limited sometimes. Obviously, you can break that limit, which I do sometimes. But you're painting on this frame, you know. And I have works that are more planned out. I have works that are fully intuitive. I'm just playing, and then it kind of develops into something like in happy mistakes, you know. But yeah, no, I still think it's all authentic. I have a lot of fun with the camera work, the filming process. I do a lot of stuff on the fly. I had this short film I did that's more of a proper like short film than kind of like video art per se, but called Area Unlocked Chroma Sick. And it was in this show in Beit El Mamzer in last September. It was curated by the artist Emirati, and it was like a 30 almost minute video. And a lot of all the dialogues improv, other than I was giving direction to kind of like, okay, the characters, I was in it too. The cinematography is all like a mishmash, which was I wanted it to be kind of crude. Filming it, there's like blog style videos, selfie style videos, third person, first person, everything, you know. And we're all kind of embodying like feral 12-year-old boys, kind of like
Embodying or
oh, it was so fun. No, it was like method acting. We were totally those characters for the entire day. We shot it all in one day for like hours. We were sweating to death. We were all wearing full latex masks. And it was very funny and wacky and kind of crude and stuff. And it's about these boys running around kind of doing kind of all of nothing, like kind of just like, I'm trying to think of a non-explicit way to say it, but like
family show.
yeah, so no, they're screwing around and they find this wall and they jump it. They all have different ideas what's behind there. Some are really wacky. Some thinks it's a conspiracy, you know. Some thinks it's some pot of gold over there. They jump and then in post-production, there's all this weird kind of inverted discoloration and stuff. And they're like seemingly unfazed by this almost reality switch. And they kind of just still screw around doing nothing important until they like come across this guy who claims to be like a curator of magical items, whatever.
So the process in these mediums also follow the same process as for when you're working with canvas, which remains intuitive.
Yeah.
And as it goes.
It was, I think
yeah.
almost all my video work. Say, I have this animated work that I like had to I was making on a game engine. It was very, you know, the structure and the logic of it was different. I had to consider a lot of things, but other film works, all my other film works are very like intuitive, whether the way we film, act, the way I edit. I'm showing also film work for the Jamil Art Center for its.
But you say intuitive, but now I'm going to go to the press. I just want to run this by you. A lot of his practice explores themes like simulation, identity, postmodern culture, absurdism, and distorted material culture. Would you say even when you're intuitive, would you say these themes tend to be recurring?
Yeah, I think these are like they're things I'm just like naturally into and want to investigate. So I think also whether I like it or not, but I'm also conscious of it, but also subconsciously it's always there. I'm very into ideas of, I don't know, I like Jean Baudrillard too, and like the ideas of simulation, hyper reality, and things like that, and perception, and kind of, there's that book by him where it's kind of talking about the mediated image, things being mediated in real time and manipulated in that sense. And I think a lot of times I use those tactics exaggeratedly to kind of maybe show or create an understanding for this kind of like distortion. Like,
I love his point, and I think it's in Precession of the Simulacra, that essay where he talks about Disneyland and Los Angeles, and his ultimate point is that Disneyland is more authentic than Los Angeles because it admits it's inauthentic. It admits it's not real. And
I think I try to do that like by exaggerating a lot. Like, and I use humor also too. I think humor also makes things more accessible and stuff. I can have things that are very lowbrow and crude moves with like something that's very like academic and intellectual and stuff.
And that's sort of the essence of postmodernism, really, isn't it?
You know, this is also really inspiring because now I'm thinking the way also filmmaking is taught at schools. Because this is how filmmaking is. You have to pre-plan everything and be rigid with planning and have the full visualization before you start executing. But it would be really nice to integrate some room for experimentation.
Intuitive work like that,
intuitive work. And this because I realized many students, even if they joined film school, not necessarily they want to work on short films. Many of them, they don't even realize how what avant-garde is. So it would
They do after I screen it, Razorhead for them. Every year I screen that for the first years, and they hate it.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's good. I had Maya Deren, all the like Dada films, like Louis.
Ancien and Deleu, I screened that for them as well.
But if they actually have that opportunity or room for experimenting, they will get what avant-garde is about. So it becomes more filmmaking as form of art and expressionism rather than just a rigid structure. And
exactly.
by the book, because this is what we do. It would be really interesting to add that branch to filmmaking.
I talk about that with the students. Again, these are the first-year film students. David Lynch wrote a book right before he died, I think, about his process of creating, called "Catching the Big Fish," I believe it's called.
I heard, I heard of it.
He was very into meditation, transcendental meditation.
Yeah.
And he said he would just turn off that rigid, conscious mind, and ideas would flow through like fish in a stream. And once in a while, for him, creation of art is catching the big fish, the thing that goes by. And sometimes you miss it and it's gone. And sometimes you catch it and you create art. But that approach, which I think sounds like what you're doing as well when you talk about intuitive, it's about not pre-planning. It's about not being rigid and conscious in your thinking, but letting the subconscious go.
Yeah, a lot of, even when I have works that I have to, because of like logistics, plan certain steps, or I can't put this material on this until I wait 24 hours, whatever. Those things are still, they don't really get in the way, I think, of the intuition much either. I still try to be intuitive. I might have, I have ideas initially sometimes, I kind of want to go for this or that, but things, the outcome is never what exactly I had in mind in the beginning, obviously. And I allow for that, and I don't put kind of this pressure of like it has to come out or be this way. Same like I was like editing and doing back and forth with curator Dina Barqawi, who I'm working with for the Jamil show. And like, there was obviously ideas and conceptual like and curatorial prompts I was working with, but then like,
But that's interesting for somebody and the uninitiated to the art world. If you're asked to take part in a show, the curator will give you prompts. What does that mean?
Depending on the show. This one, because it was a commission, and there was kind of a conceptual, or there was an idea of the me also responding, kind of collaboratively kind of working with the curator. So the context of this show kind of operated differently than other shows where there's no curator, or there is a curator, but they're more so kind of selecting work or curating in that sense, not prompting a new work.
But to a theme, or no?
Yeah, usually there's a thematic or conceptual like underpinning of things, like a group show, like the one at the gallery at Tabari Art Space in DIFC is the group show. It's a lot, most of the artists represented by them in this show. Kind of, they wanted to show work that we were all making during kind of the situation recently, and it was interesting to see because subconsciously there was all these things that tied them together. You know, without me having seen been in the other artists' studios and stuff, there was a lot of work about kind of the body and contention and constraint and kind of maybe angst or anxiety and stuff like that, and. So it was just, that was the idea and prompt, so to speak. It's like, show what you made during this time frame. And a lot of the work just like, it worked great, like together, you know? So yeah, I feel like shows contextually differ a lot.
So if the curator of the show, sorry, am I interrupting? Were you gonna say-
Not at all.
The curator says like a theme that will jog an idea and jog art into being. It's not like you have the pre-made art. In some cases you might, but often you don't have the pre-made art, but that will get ideas going.
Yeah.
And then the intuitive kicks in. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I've been asked by, I did a show, I was in this group show in Daraya Art Futures in Riyadh, and the curators hit me up, and they kind of already knew what work of mine they wanted to show. And again, I showed it in kind of a new way, in a new context, so I wanted to take advantage of that and have fun with it. I like projection mapped on like a 4-meter tall like sculpture, very vertigo-inducing installation. And whereas I did a show in Qatar at the Media Majlis Museum, which is part of Northwestern University there, and they commissioned me for a new work, and I wasn't given a thing to respond to per se. I could, you know, I had free reign, and I made this thing. I joke that it's a torture device, but it's like this sculpture that also is you can sit on, and it's very kind of alien looking, and there's a screen that you're like, the seat is uncomfortably close to the screen. So I have an animated film about alien archaeologists doing a survey on Earth, kind of post-humanity, and finding, you know, relics, so to speak, of whether it's an iPhone, oil infrastructure, things like that, and kind of misinterpreting everything. They're speaking very candidly and seriously and, like, you know, intellectually almost, but it's all wrong thinking, like iPhone's like a sacred mirror object. Everything's sacred, everything mythologized. And while these aliens are investigating their landscape, the viewer sat in this chair is also investigating too, because I put them so close that they have to literally look around. But say that was a commission and there was a new work, I was told I could do this commission, or they were like, if you want to also show a different work that you've already made. And I was like, no, I want to make something new. And there was a budget, so that was fun, you know, so I could kind of play with the money too, you know.
You know, because your work is very conceptual and unique, like specific. I'm really interested in knowing people's response and reaction to your work. Like what kind of questions they ask about your work, if you got any weird, funny, something that stands out, maybe.
Funny,
or,
hostile,
or
whatever
maybe,
makes for good retail.
maybe some sort of question that was, you know, my work is not for you. But like in any way, just like generally people's reaction to your work.
Yeah, I think visually and conceptually, maybe I work within a niche. I don't think it's interesting to absolutely everyone, but I think I prefer it that way. And I find that people who resonate or like what I'm thinking about, or even just the visual aesthetics I use, tend to really like it. And then the ones who are just simply, it's not their thing, you know, Adi, no need. But I've had funny responses from, like, there's people who, you know, understand it very well and know certain references, or, oh, I see this and that, I understand where you're coming from. And then people on the total opposite side who, like, are not art goers or enthusiasts or into it, or kind of don't care, sometimes have a disdain for art, and they're like, what's this, you know? And then, but a lot of times, actually, those are very generative, because I think there's some provocative elements sometimes in my work, and but I use it as like a tactic to kind of provoke kind of reevaluation of whatever I'm presenting, whether it's like some like historical.
Do you
things
take
or
it
not.
as revaluation of your own work, or people need to
ideas.
step up for it?
I think me showing, I have this film I called Petro Gharibo, and it's all shot.
What does that mean?
Petro. I was kind of playing on this like academic language of calling things like a petro culture and stuff like that, which is interesting and valid. But I've kind of read it sometimes as kind of dismissive or almost with an Orientalist flair of like say calling the Gulf like a just a petro culture, or like I mean like the States is not any less of a petro culture. Like, but so I was playing on that kind of ironically. In Gharibo, I just played on the word Gharib, which is like weird or strange in Arabic. And I shot it in Dubai and Hatta and Sharjah and stuff. And with the camera itself, I was decontextualizing things by just like, 400 times zoom. And like, there's a shot that looks like when you watch the film, it's like, oh, that's like some weird alien spaceship looking thing. It's the helicopter pad of Burj Al Arab. I just filmed it in a sense I was kind of distorting it via the camera work, and then obviously in post-production. I think I'm very interested in these layers of distortion. But for example, it made people reevaluate what they were seeing, because they're like, oh, and I think it created that uncanny kind of psychological effect where I'm showing them something they know, but in a different way where it's totally abstracted now. And then they kind of realize they have this kind of weird sense of it's alien but familiar. And
why? Maybe you just answered it. I was going to say, you said I like distortion, and even in the press, it's a distorted material culture. What is it that appeals to you about distortion?
I think it's one, I think there's just like it references the distortion of kind of everyday life.
Speaking of distorted, there's no way time 60 minutes could have passed. Is that right? No. Okay. I'm going to let you answer that in a second. But first, I got to say, you've been listening to Crossroads on Mira Business FM in collaboration with Middlesex University, Dubai. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all the usual platforms. And I really want to give a big thanks to Dalal El Najjar for being here with us today. You've been a fantastic guest. I give the floor to you.
Well, yeah, shout out Distortion. I think it's fun.
This is, yeah.
I also think it's fun. I think it's good to have fun. Remember that I'm like, I want to have fun. People should have fun. And I like making people laugh and that. So I do it with the work. And I think Distortion, though, is a way I can say and provoke things that I can get away with more.
Can I squeeze one last question? Because I'm really curious. Because thank you, David. Because you say, okay, no backstory. Just directly to the question. What would you like to see more in the art scenery here, whether business-wise, artists-wise, or anything? What do you think we're lacking that you would really like to see more here?
I think just going weird. I think weird is good. I think, and I'm seeing it with the young artists, the fresh grads out of like art school, whether from Zayed or NYU and other programs, or the university in Sharjah as well. It's like, get weirder. We're in weird times. Why you don't need to be mundane, and it's good to be funny too. Like work shouldn't be boring.
That's a great last message for us. Get weird.
Yeah, get funny and get weird.
It gives us freedom,
fun.
yeah?
All right, thank you again, Talal.
Thank you so much, Talal. Thank you, pleasure to have you.
It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Woohoo, thank you.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.